I'm with Mike McCollum.
I liked it that
One
way.
of the greatest criminal defense attorneys and mentors to both me and Daniel. He is an amazing, great human being. Went to law school and then did you enlist?
No, I joined while I was in law school. Yeah.
But did not go to become a lawyer in the Marines. He went to fight. We're going to be talking about all of that. The history, Daniel and I's history with Mike, Mike's history, family, law, business management. This is a great podcast with an amazing human being. Please join us and be part of this. I did. So I was like, okay, I'll do that for you today. And then tomorrow I got to go figure out what I want to do with my life.
All right.
The next day it was, Sammy got arrested. We got to go get him out of jail. It's like, all right, I'll do that for you today. And then tomorrow I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. The next day it was, John over here, his wife got in her car wreck. Can you help with that? I was like, all right, I'll do that for you today. And then tomorrow I want to figure out what I want to do with my life. It happened for 6 weeks. After about 6 weeks, I
figure
realized
out how to get paid on them? Were you getting paid on them?
I was doing, my niche was anything that anybody works in a restaurant needs, from the bussers to the owners.
Yeah.
And I was doing $300,000 to $400,000 worth of work and making 60 to 80 collecting.
Yeah.
And it sucked.
Yep.
And so in my around year 5, I hired. I went to the Dallas Bar Association and saw this guy speaking about law firm management for the solo and small firm section. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing about 80% of what he's talking about. And I've got enough experience to know he knows what he's talking about, but he's got some real good ideas about these things. And so and he goes, if you're interested in what I'm talking about, put your business card in. If you're committed to making your law firm better, sign the back of it. And I was like, well, hell, And so he calls, schedules an appointment. Within 15 minutes, he analyzed what my situation was.
Yeah.
And he absolutely 100% correctly analyzed.
Who was he?
R. John Robbins from How to Manage a Small Law Firm.
Okay, so he wasn't a Dallas Bar lawyer.
No, he was he was the first member of the Florida Law Office Management Assistance Program. So in Florida, if you have a problem, they send somebody in to help you fix the problem, as opposed to crucifying you and penalizing you like the Texas State Bar likes to do.
Yeah.
The State Bar of Texas is in a lot of ways against us, and the disciplinary committee is like punish.
Yeah.
As opposed to, hey, we got mental illness, we got drugs, alcohol. Why? Because this is a hard job to do.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And a lot of it is because they don't tell us how to run the business of a law firm in law school. They just don't.
No.
And
so you stumbled
and didn't even learn that in
So you
SMU.
stumbled in, and so you're doing this. You just backed into it.
So really what happened was after 6 weeks, I was like, I guess I own a law firm, because I went to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be the CEO.
Yeah, you
of a
were an
company.
entrepreneur. Yeah.
And I go, look, if I know who the right attorneys are to hire, if I can analyze and know what they know and whether they're doing the right thing or not, and just to know what they know, and it's the completion of my business training, that's enough for me to spend 3 years and $250,000 to get an SMU law degree.
Yeah.
And I won't be afraid of all the stuff that I don't know. I just wanted to be at that level of personhood.
Yeah.
But I never wanted to practice law.
Yeah. Well, I was there too. I mean, I went to law school out of boredom. At Texas, I figured out how to beat the system down there. When I was in high school, one of my friends, I went to Kimball, but one of my friends from Adamson's older sister was an English teacher at Kimball. She was really hot, and she, really liked Miss Sharkey. She was cool. Well, Miss Sharkey had gone to UT, and of course she was, older than the rest of us. She probably was all of 22 or 23, who knows? But from Jim Sharkey.
Are you hot for teacher, Mike?
Yeah, I was then, but Jim told us that his older sister, when he went to Texas, that she took smart pills. That everybody down there took smart pills to study for finals.
Smart pills? What is that? Meth?
Yes. When I found out it was meth, when I was a prosecutor in Judge Ellis's court, giving out recommendations. They had standard recommendations for for the misdemeanors, and possession of methamphetamine, amphetamine, whatever it was a misdemeanor. And so
No kidding.
The standard rec was 2 for 2 and a $2,000 fine. 2 years probation for 2 years and a $2,000 fine. On all meth, marijuana it was less, but it was always a year probated and $500 or whatever. Standard recs.
Yeah.
And I'm in there giving these. I hadn't been there very long. I've been giving a standard rec, and one of the guys said, "Mike, what do you give it? $2,000?" I said, "Yeah, it's why is it so high?" I said, "It's just standard rec. It's meth." He said, "It was one diet pill." I said, "What? A diet pill?" And I looked at there, and sure enough, it was one diet pill. And I went, "Holy mackerel!"
Now you realize the importance of a defense attorney.
When I was at Texas, so when I go down to Texas, I'm down there my freshman year. I got into the business building, BEB, doing business. I didn't know what I was going to do. And they just started a business honors plan, which was supposed to be the equivalent of Plan 2, but it turned out it wasn't. And I was running track, and then I joined a fraternity, and so I was real busy. And after a year and a half, I figured out how to do it. The professors were just as liberal then as they are now.
Oh, really?
Worthless people, yeah. They had all that tenure, that ability to sit back and let everybody else worry about making a living so they could think off, But what I
gotta remember think off. That's a classic.
So that, after being there for a little while, I actually went to every class, wrote down everything those professors said. I did real well except in English. I made a D in English. That was the freshman English is where they cut everybody. I had to go to summer school to make a C to stay in. Yeah, but I was making decent grades. I aced physics. It was a 4-hour. It was the same class I took at Kimball, a identical class. Mr. Minnick at Kimball had taught the same thing, so I was whiz at physics, and I learned you study everything, you write down everything those professors said, and then the night before the finals, you pop a smart pill, and you just read everything, and then you go in there and you regurgitate it. So I'd figured that system out. And
that seems a lot easier than how I did it.
It worked. And of course,
we are not recommending that anybody do that.
Oh, no, it caught up with me because what happened was...
It's a problem. It's not worth it.
No, because what happened was I did that.
And you just thought it was a diet pill. Yeah, no, how would you know?
Well, I knew it was a diet pill because everybody took them down there. They were Dexedrine and Dexamyl.
Yeah,
that everybody took. Yeah. And they get them in Mexico. You can get 15 milligram ones or 30 milligram, like a horse pill. 30 milligram Dexedrine.
I heard of that when I was at UT.
Huh?
I do remember hearing about that at UT. I never did it. I never saw it. But I do remember hearing about it, and like a lot of people were doing it.
Yeah.
And that was in 90.
It was
mid-90s.
I just knew no-dose. I mean, that's all I knew.
No dose?
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I bet you 40% of the student body took those. They were smart. Everybody took them. It was hilarious. And I experimented with them because some of them, I was already real hyper anyway. I never slept. I just never could when I was a kid. Okay. So I didn't need speed. But it did make you, for some reason, if you popped one and you were sitting down with the books right in front of you, bingo. Now, if you were waxing your car or vacuuming the apartment and that thing kicked in, you'd be vacuuming for another 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
You really had to be careful with them. And the other thing I noticed is I get headaches with some of them, and some of them I just so hyper that, I couldn't even concentrate. So I experimented with all of it. It turned out my girlfriend at the time, his father owned a drugstore in a little small town, Mart, Texas. And they had a diet pill came out called Escatrol. And he had she could get samples of Escatrol from. So I got a jar that big of Escatrol. And what Escatrol was, I tried those and they worked. I tried Ritalin, and Ritalin just blew the back of my head off. I just couldn't take those. It was really bad headache. Tried them all. And the diet pill, it had 15 milligrams of dextrine in it, and then it had a downer in there to level it off. And so Escatrol worked great for me. So my middle name was Mike VD, Valley of the Dolls McCollum, the whole time I was down there. Hey, Mike, can I get a pill? Yeah, here, take one. And it worked great in undergraduate.
You know, we're putting this on the air. Are you okay with
Oh,
all that?
I don't care. I don't.
It's like,
Statues run. So what happens is, I got after I quit track, after my first semester of my sophomore year, I said I'm going to be a good student. I'll drop track. That's 3 hours a day I can devote to being a good student. So I hate the business school because the windows were too small in the building. I didn't like you make stupid decisions when you're young. So I dropped out of the business.
I was a big
school.
fan of convenience. That's why I liked SMU.
Yeah,
I lived right across the street.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. So I go, I quit track. I moved out of the fraternity house, and I'm going to be a good student. So what am I going to do? Well, I just like history. So I started taking a bunch of history classes, and, I liked history. So I'd get 18 hours, 21 hours each semester, and I'd figured it out, and I was making really good grades. And the next year, halfway through my junior year, I was looking around, and even back then, I started down there in 62, so this is the fall of 64. Fall of 64. I'm looking around, and, there are people down there that they're 50 years old, still going to school down there back then, working on their 20th degree. And I said,
What's the point of that?
Yeah.
stay in Austin.
I guess.
They're bums. And I said, another year of this shit, and I will be totally worthless. And, I'd already crossed off. I should have been a scientist or a doctor or an engineer because I was totally inarticulate. Like I said, I flunked English. But
So then you go and
what happens
argue
is,
stuff for a living?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to be
You're
a lawyer.
great at it. How did these skill sets match up?
I'm not good at it. I'm only good at it in the courtroom. I don't like to argue outside the courtroom. I'm not competitive. I don't like it.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't like watching lawyer shows. I watch doctor shows. But in the courtroom,
Fair enough.
in the courtroom, it's totally different. And
Daniel can't stand watching lawyer shows either.
No.
He can't.
No.
He gets so mad.
Yeah. You just
He's like,
Yeah.
this is all wrong.
yeah. You're taking work home, man.
That's
I
not
just
what
don't
Mike taught me.
So what happens is I'm taking these smart pills and I find out. And my fraternity was on the east side of the campus. It's the only fraternity on the east side. So it was right down the street from the law school. So a lot of my fraternity brothers, it was a big fraternity, and it was the Delts, and we had
Yeah, I know where that is.
the Delt House, and we had a really eclectic group.
That was the major party house when
Yeah.
I was.
Well, the Chevelles were the back in my day. They were the party band at Texas, and they were Delts. They
wow.
grew up in Amarillo and Lubbock. Yeah,
Did not know that.
yeah, and so anyway, what would happen there at the Delt House is they had some smart people. A lot of them went to medical school. A lot of them were engineers.
No kidding.
I decided when I went down there as a freshman, I started at 17 because I grew up in Colorado, so you could start grade school at 5. So I'm pretty immature. I decided right off the bat I couldn't be an engineer because I flunked mechanical drawing, so that's out. I didn't like the sight of blood, so I can't be a doctor.
That's why I couldn't do it.
And so I'm going, what the hell am I going to do? Halfway through my junior year,
Well, if
and
you've
I'm
ever
bored.
played the game of life, doctor's number one, then lawyer's number two. So if you can't do doctor, lawyer's
Well, I would have rather been an engineer, really. But what happened was, with all the guys in my fraternity, all of us did this. If you weren't talented, just keep the party going. Just go to law school. So we just walk up the street, and back then all you had to do is put a mirror under your nose, and if you're alive, you got in.
No kidding.
So I found out about this program they had there. It was the 90-hour program. And what the 90-hour program was...
You got a degree in with just 90 hours? Wait.
Well, you're supposed to.
It's 90 hours now, I guess, for law school.
No, you didn't... No, what it was...
How much is it at SMU?
No, what happens is...
Okay.
In undergraduate school, if you have 90 hours
Uh-huh.
and over a B average, and you go to law school, after your first year of law school, they give you your undergraduate degree.
You save a year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I
God, I would have loved to do that.
Yeah, so I ended up... I was very immature when I graduated. I mean, I was
you,
2
like,
years younger than everybody else.
22 maybe?
Yeah,
20?
yeah, I was younger than everybody else.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, what happens is, well, hell, I'll do that because I can't do any more of this. I'll be totally worthless. So I go over there to the arts and science department, they said, yeah, sure. I said, look, I've got, at the end of the semester, I have 105 hours. I have over a B average. Can I go to law school? Yeah, you can take the LSAT. And the way you do that, I studied it real hard. We had our spring big deal dance. I think it was Jerry Lee Lewis was the
Wow.
yeah, we
That's
had Jerry
pretty
Lee.
cool.
It was either Jerry Lee or the Crickets without Buddy Holly, obviously.
Oh, wow.
But what I did was, it was an all-night affair, basically. So I took the LSAT book that I hadn't cracked and took it with me. And then when we went to after hours, I stuck it under my pillow. And I absorbed it by osmosis. And the next morning I got up with a hangover and took the LSATs. And I don't even know what my score
pretty
was.
close to what I did to prep for the house.
Don't know what my score was, but I got in law school. And then I'm in law school. Now it's the fall of 65. I'm having a ball. I'm still the pledge trainer. I'm still doing intramural football. Some of the guys in the law school, we all knew each other there were a whole bunch of guys from Texas that went to law school. We all knew each other, different fraternities. And we played football and, we just knew each other. And so Jim Rolfe and, who I did not know. I met Jim and a couple of others. And they said, let's put together a little team, a scratch, football team, flag football, whatever they call it down there, intramural football, because they had an intramural league for law school too. So I was still doing it for the fraternity and still doing it for the law school. And I'd gone to every class as an undergrad except that last semester. That's when I knew I was going to law school. I said, because I want to be serious as a law student. So I want to get this. I don't want to be cutting class. I hadn't done it yet, but just to get it out of my system, I'm going to arbitrarily cut one class every day all semester. I had taken 6 or 7 classes, so it's pretty easy to do. Every day I cut one class all semester. So what happened when I started law school that semester, I kept that habit up. And I didn't
You might have
realize,
lived a happier life by doing that, actually.
and I didn't realize until somebody mentioned, they're keeping attendance in a couple of these classes. Oh no! So,
Yikes.
and so what happened was, we were an experimental section. They decided with us they were going to combine torts and contracts for the final. And, those are big courses. So it's contorts. I called it contorts.
Yeah, that's a little weird. I wouldn't want to have to answer a question with torts and contracts mixed.
Well, that's right. See, they had 6 questions. 4 were mixed, and 2 weren't. One was full contract, and one was full tort. You had to.
Do they still do that?
No, I don't. I think they quit it after that. And then they said that you took the final for the fall semester. We were all in the same section, 125 people in the same section, and we all took the same classes. So you take the final, and our finals weren't till January. We come back from Christmas, and then we take them in January, and then we'd have January, the last 2 weeks off in late January. Then we start the
That's
spring.
actually decent. Although I don't know,
Well,
I'd
it
rather
ruins
not
your
have to worry
Christmas,
about it. Yeah, it does ruin your Christmas, doesn't it?
But I'd always go skiing, because I grew up in Colorado, and I'd always go skiing. I had family up there, and so in January I'd always go skiing. And so that semester, I finally take the final, and I do the same deal. Pop the pill, and I
Off the bill.
read
This is not the conversation
900
we're going to have today.
900
It's always
pages.
interesting on the podcast.
Yeah, 900 pages of process outline on it. So I'm ready to go the next day. I take my finals, and hey, I'm doing great. And I go skiing. And when I went skiing, what they had, and I knew this, is they had a seating chart. But so many people would go do that. When you came back, they had to do a second seating chart about 3 weeks into the spring semester. So there was 2 seating charts. So what happened was, in the spring, I'm taking constitutional law, and Charles Allen Wright is teaching it. Now, Charles Allen Wright he was an amazing, amazing guy. He was a whiz kid in the 40s. The rumor was he had a photographic memory. He remembered the seating chart, and he knew everybody. And if you
That's
asked him
impressive.
a question in a book, he would say, well, you're right about that. But if you look on page 323 at the footnote down on the second column, you'll see that the justice, and he practiced in front of the Supreme Court, the Supremes, and he wrote the book on federal courts along with he had wrote a couple of books, and he had actually represented. Well, it was later. He did that after I left. But anyway, everybody's scared to death of him. He's a big old guy. I didn't know who he was because I wasn't there that often, So, but I had him for con law, and I was scared to death of him. But I realized, you didn't want to be called on by him because, if you weren't ready, you're excused. You didn't want to.
He'd make you leave the class?
I don't think he did. I think Gus Hodges did that. But you didn't want him knowing that you weren't ready.
Yeah.
Because that was the rumor on it. Well, it turns out it was true. He didn't know all. He had a mind like that. It was unbelievable. But he also had one human characteristic. He loved football. I mean, he was a part owner of the Patriots. He went to Wesleyan. He went to Wesleyan College back east. And played football for him, and then he went to law school at Yale, and he was a brilliant young professor for the Yale or Harvard or something up there, Ivy League school, in the late 40s, early 50s, and something happened up there. I don't know what it was, but I don't know what it was, but he got blackballed from all those Ivy League schools. And he was brilliant, and Dean Keaton. What a great man he was. He hired him down at Texas because Paige Keaton wanted to make UT a great law school. So in one of the ways he wanted to do it, he wanted to get great professors from all over, and he wanted to open it up till we had students coming from all over the country to come to Texas. And when I went to Texas, we were the third largest law school in the country. We had 1,630 students.
In the law school?
In the law school.
1,630?
Yeah. And of them,
that's huge.
That is huge.
SMU has what, 300 maybe?
No, probably about 700, maybe 600, maybe 600. I don't know.
Oh yeah, because it's like about 200, 200 to 300 per section.
Yeah.
So okay.
And Charles Allen, he made that school. I mean, Dean Keaton brought him down, and it was like, wow, Charles Allen Wright is teaching in Austin and UT. And back then in the early 50s, that was a desert, And he was able to draw other great professors, and Charles Allen Wright reciprocated. I mean, he was so loyal to the university and to Dean Keaton. I mean, what a great guy he was. But I didn't want anything to do with him. First of all, I was only doing law school because I thought it would give me a good education. It would teach me how to think. That's why I went. Teach me how to think, so I won't be totally worthless. And so what happens is I take con law. I don't make that good a grade in con law. And you don't even get your grades till like March for the fall. I get my grades for the fall, and I am flunking out. I didn't do that well at all. And I realized what it was. It seemed a little odd taking those finals because the way it works when you're doing law school, it's not memorizing facts.
It's applying it.
Yes. And every law school question you have, they give you the facts of the situation. And you may memorize this case and that case and what the facts were in the case, but that's not the deal. You got to analyze it and realize why they ruled the way they did, because a law school question, sometimes it could go either way. It's just, how did you, what's your reasoning?
Yep.
Well, you take a smart pill. It doesn't teach you that. I mean, you can't reason with it. You just remember stuff.
Yep.
So I'm flunking out. And they said that was half my grade. It turns out it wasn't. That first semester grade really kind of, it wasn't, but it was bad. Mine was really bad. And I was flunking out. Contorts, all of them. Property, procedure. And that's when I realized those smart pills, I can't take those smart pills. So what I would do is I would take them about 2 months before finals just to start, because I didn't cheat. A lot of people cheated. They would read the cases ahead of time before they went into class, so they'd be prepared. That's no way to be a law student. I mean, it's cheating. But it was always so interesting.
By the way, that's what they tell you to do.
They had
you do figure out about halfway through, after grades come in second semester. Yeah. And a couple of weeks after that, you figure out that most of what they tell you is bullshit.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, so I'm frantically studying all this stuff. And I said, man, this stuff is really interesting. I wish I'd have read these cases. This is really interesting stuff. And then I'd get off the pills to take the final. So I'd be dry. And I did okay. But, and I did that each semester. And then my last semester, I was off those things. I never took another Dexedrine, ever. And I found out later that the Marine Corps actually used them in Korea. They used them to the recon guys.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, because they put them in icy cold water. You know, that's how they sometimes entry swimming in. And they gave them Dexedrine. And the thing about Dexedrine is, for me anyway, it made you just meaner than hell. And it also made you weaker than hell because what I would do is I hated law school so much that in order to study, I had to have, my first year I was buying a different brand of cigarette. They had all these new cigarettes were coming out. And I'd been a track guy and I never smoked. I thought people smoked were weak. But I hated law school so much that I got in the habit where I had to have a cigarettes here before I could crack a book. Because those books didn't have any pictures in them, you know. So that first semester, that first year, you know, I'd smoke when I studied, and then the second year, a guy I met at Kimball, one of my classmates, was brilliant. Wayne McCormick. Wayne went to Stanford, very bright guy out there, and so because, you know, he was graduated in 4 years regular, he was a year behind me. So he started law school a year after me, and he and a friend of his from Stanford were going to come and be roommates. Well, the friend got in a real bad car wreck on the way to Austin. So Wayne is without a place to live, and he calls and says, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, Rusty Smith and I, we pledged together. We'd roomed together. By this time, you know, I was a fratus ratus erectus. I knew everything about being a professional student down there. It was my 5th year down there. So we had a house half a block from Schultz's. That's where our house was, you know, real old house. You could put a, you know, bowling ball in the front and it roll all the way through the house. It was just, you know, old house. And so I said, Rusty, I got a, guy I went to high school with looking for a place. You know, what about giving him the back porch? He said, yeah, go ahead. So I said, yeah, Wayne, come stay. So he had the back porch.
Well, living on the back porch was his room?
But it was a bedroom and everything.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, it wasn't any worse than our rooms, basically. This is an old house. It's a parking lot now. You know, they tore all that down. Schultz's is the only thing left down there, in fact. And so Wayne, interesting thing about Wayne is we had more stuff going on there. We were like party central. We had people would come all the time because we were right next to Schultz's and we knew everybody. And it was hot and cold running parties, just crazy. We had a trap set and 2 guitars in the little living room in there.
Oh, cool.
And it was crazy. And we were doing stuff. We'd be in there and we'd have girls chasing boys around the table and boys chasing girls. And Wayne would be sitting there studying, reading, cheating. And calm guy. He was like the Colt 45 guy. You remember those ads with the real calm, and he'd be sitting there drinking a Colt 45, and a shark would be eating the desk, or building would fall down around him. That was Wayne. And at the end of the first semester, he had 7 pages of legal pad notes. That's all he had for every class. That's all he had for notes for every class he took.
7 pages?
7 pages.
I did a jury trial last month.
Yeah.
I had like 48 pages over 4 days.
Yeah. I know. I write down everything. So, but he goes in. He gets his grades back in March, and he's number 1 in the class.
Wow.
So Wayne ended up being on law review, and he ended up as a law professor at Utah. I saw him in January, first time in many, many years. But, he absolutely cheated. I mean, I said, Wayne, how did you do that? He read the stuff ahead of time. He read the cases, because he wanted to be a lawyer. And it worked out great for him.
I just wanted to know what it was that I wanted to know. I wanted to know how to do all the corporate stuff, so I learned that. I wanted to know what the police really can and can't do. That's why I was in your class.
Yep.
I wanted to learn how to do that so I would have no fear of that and really have a good understanding of that. I did negotiations, which I cannot believe is an optional class.
Yeah,
because I always knew as a CEO of a company, you're a salesman.
Yes.
Period. And why would you go to law school and not take advantage of learning how to negotiate?
Yep.
And seeing whether you can do it or not. And hey, maybe you're already great and maybe you don't need that. But if not, you need this class.
Yeah.
And we had like 30 people in the class, and there's 300 in our year. And it was all 3 years. So 10% of the law school takes negotiations. That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And
I agree with you.
Yes, I did get the highest grade in that class.
Yeah. Well, I think people ask, what's the best preparation to go to law school? I'd say get a degree in physics or biology or not accounting. Something totally different.
Totally different.
Because you're going to learn how to be a lawyer. It may take a little longer to think like one, but not much.
I doubt it.
Not much.
I actually think you can think better if you know how to
because you have depth. That's right.
Exactly. You have depth.
Some depth. And that's what I think the best preparation for law school. If you really want to be a lawyer, I didn't want to be one, and I didn't know what I wanted to be. And, thank God the war came along, so I was able to put it off even longer.
So when did you go in the Marines?
See, I joined that.
Was it straight out of law school or?
No, what happened was it was my first year of law school after I realized my grades were that bad and I started studying in the spring. I was feeling really guilty because, here I am having a good time in college, really enjoying myself. It's pretty easy. And these poor bastards are getting drafted and going over there. And, I felt guilty. And so my pledge trainer was a god down there, and he's still alive, and he's a really neat guy. His name is Mike McCollum, really humble guy. And Cotton was my pledge trainer my freshman year. And he had been he was the Darrell Royal's first successful triple option quarterback. And when I was in high school at Kimball, the Cariotis family from Sunset owned the franchise for pennants and stuff like that, for the Cotton Bowl. So what Mr. Cariotis would do is he'd hire all the jocks from Sunset, and then when Kimball split off, a lot of those kids were from that area. All the jocks from Kimball and Sunset could go sell chairbacks at the Cotton Bowl, which are and what would happen is you'd sell these chairbacks, $5 a chairback, and you'd be sold out by the first quarter. Then you go in and watch the game for free.
Cool.
So, I went to Kimball my junior and senior year, so I did it for both Cotton Bowls and both Texas OU weekends. And Mike Cotton was the quarterback all 4 times. Everybody knew who he was. He was just a neat guy. So I knew him. I knew of him. And when I pledged my freshman year, I waited till after Texas OU weekend. I didn't pledge right off the bat. When I go in for my first pledge meeting, there's the Mike Cotton. He's my pledge trainer. And he's a great, really humble guy. It's really amazing what a neat guy he was. And he was starting law school. And so he was my pledge trainer. Then he kind of drifted off and didn't see him after a year or two. He was gone. And during the finals of '66, January '66, that's my first year of law school. I'm there at the fraternity house. We didn't have meals during finals. We just had open coffee and sandwiches 24 hours a day in the mess hall. So I'm in there one morning, get coffee and some donuts, and I look over there, and there's Mike Cotton sitting there drinking coffee. And he's wearing modified blues, which are Charlie. It's a Charlie uniform, which is short khaki uniform with the blue trousers with the red stripe. And he's there. I said, Mike, my God, I thought you were in law school. So yeah, I'm graduating. I said, you're in the Marine Corps? He said, oh yeah, I joined the PLC program. I didn't know what that was, but I learned later. And he said, really? I said, God, I didn't know you were in the Marine Corps. He said, yeah. I said, just home on leave for a little while. You going to Vietnam? He says, yeah, I'm going to have to leave. And then another pledge brother of mine came in, Howard Allen, and Howard, he was his last year of undergraduate school. And he's the only guy I would lend my motorcycle to. So Howard and I were, I trusted him, and he was a good guy, and he was kind of adventuresome. So Howard and I are sitting there talking to Mike, and then that night we got drunk. I said, "God damn, that's pretty cool." Oh, Mike's Marine Corps. He said, "If you join, I'll join." So we joined.
There had to be alcohol involved in that some kind of way.
It turned out, by the time it was all over with, there were 7 of us from my fraternity who were Marine officers in Vietnam. And of the 7, 4 of us, 3 of us were together at one time by accident, and we were put there by a 4th. So of the 7, I found my way to my roommate, Rusty. I talked him into joining later, and he got over there before I did. And when I headed over there, I was on Okinawa, and I ran into another pledge brother, didn't even know he was in the Marine Corps. And he was coming back on his 3rd extension from Vietnam. And I said, "I'm looking for Rusty. You remember Rusty?" "Oh, yeah, he's my supply officer. How do I get hold of Rusty?" He showed me how to get a hold of him. So when I got down there after working hard for a month, I asked for permission to go out and visit him. And I went out to visit him. We're messing around out there for a week. And the last day I'm there, we're sitting under a tent out in the middle of nowhere, drinking a beer. We look out there. Here comes 4 guys. They're all dusty. It's kind of like that scene out of the Good, Bad, and the Ugly, where you look off and you see these people coming in, and they're all gray. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
They come in and they think, "Oh, good, they're Southerners. Good, we're okay, Confederates." Then they get up there and start knocking the dust off, and they got blue uniforms underneath. Remember that? Remember that scene?
Yeah.
So these guys come in, they're just dusty. There's 4 of them. You could tell, you got 2 rifles, a radio operator, and a guy without a rifle, and he's got to be the officer. So they come in, they sit down about 5 feet away from us in the sun, and they're just kind of relaxing, taking their gear off. FO team? Yeah. Been out long? Oh, about 3 weeks. Who are you out with? We were with Mike 3-5. Really? Okay. So they're attached to a company, Mike Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. And so I said, "Want a beer?" They said, "Nah, if you got a Coke, we'll take a Coke." We throw him a Coke, and then the officer takes his helmet off. "It's another pledge brother." "Dick Pops, is that you?"
Small world.
It was small world, yeah.
So you were out there, you were fighting, not like you weren't in JAG Corps or any of that stuff.
Well, no. What happened was...
What did you do?
No, what happened? Well, my first tour, I got stuck in JAG. But what happened was I went, when I joined, the night you join, I'll join,
Mm-hmm.
I signed a contract for an undergraduate ground contract. They had 3 PLC contracts. You could get air, they still do, air, ground, or law. Law is for law students. Well, I didn't have a degree, so I'm going undergraduate, and I absolutely did not want to be a lawyer. I wasn't joining for that, and figured if I was going to be a lawyer, I could do that for the rest of my life. But
Mm-hmm.
That's not why I was joining. So I joined it, and I wanted to be sure I wasn't going to be no chance to be a JAG. No, don't worry about it. So I went off to OCS the first summer. It's 2 summers of OCS, basically what it is. And they have what's called monitors, and he came down and told us all about what was going to happen and how you pick your MOSs. And the monitor for the lawyers, he was monitor for the lawyers, the JAGs, and the tankers. He had 2 groups. So, I asked the question, wise guy. My first summer camp, I was like going, in Boy Scout camp, I loved it. I'd taken my brain off, stuck it in a drawer, and got to go up there and climb ropes and do all kinds of stuff. It was so much fun. And so I asked him, because I was always the wise guy. And so I said, "Yeah, I got a question. Any questions, candidates?" "Yeah, I got one. And I want to make sure that I wasn't going to be a lawyer." "Candidate, don't worry. You're not going to be a lawyer in the Marine Corps." So then the next...
I think you're probably the only human being that's ever asked that question.
No. It's not,
Really?
it's not that unusual.
Really?
Yeah. People think... From the lawyer perspective, yes.
That's what I mean, from the lawyer perspective.
But from the other
somebody
way...
who's gone to law school...
No, there were guys
who goes in that don't want to be in JAG, but they
the Marine Corps had bunches of them.
Interesting. I would not have expected that at all. 'Cause I've never heard of anybody doing that besides you telling me now.
Well, at that time, there's no way around it, because what happened was, I go to my second summer, and I want to get commissioned right then. It's at 67, and I'm thinking the war is going to be over. So I want to get commissioned right now. And I was the, platoon honor man. So I go to my platoon commander and say, I want to get commissioned right now. So when we do our graduation ceremony from OCS here. So they call down and they get the monitor. He comes and talks to me for like 2 hours. They pull me out of the squad bay and talk 2 hours about it. And I didn't have an undergraduate degree. And I didn't have a law degree. And I didn't have the undergraduate degree because I hadn't bothered to go ask for it. And so they said, look, we'd like to help you, Mike, but you got into this deal with the university before you joined the Marine Corps. You're going to have to go back. I had 105 hours. If you go one semester and get an undergraduate degree, we'll commission you in January. Or if you can talk them into giving you an undergraduate degree like they're supposed to, you can, we'll commission you. Or just go back and finish law school. And every one of those guys, my sergeant instructor, which is equivalent of a DI, said, candidate, finish law school. My platoon commander, finish law school. Company commander, finish law school, McCollum. And they were crying for second lieutenant infantry officers at that time in the Marine Corps because it was, it was 67. They were going through them pretty quickly. But here's the Marine Corps trying to look out for me, Whereas the University of Texas, they wouldn't give me an undergraduate degree because I had the wrong hours. I had 84 of the correct. I said, you didn't tell me that when I joined. Well, we made a mistake. So I had 105 hours, but I didn't have the right hours. Mm-hmm. In fact, I had to take an
How do you not have the right hour?
They didn't tell me. They never. What happened? Arts and Science Department was
They're so courteous.
Oh yeah. So here's the University of Texas, Arts and Science. Liberal arts, most conservative, reactionary institute around. They said, "Well, rules are rules. We can't break the rule for one person." I said, "Wait a minute. You never told me." Well, we should have told you, but we made a mistake. But we can't make an exception. They did the same thing. I think they did the same thing.
But it's their fault.
It was
their fault. How do they?
Why do you think I always wanted to be treated like a mushroom over at the law school? I have a just hatred of academia because of that. I don't like academia.
I bet.
And it's always been, I hate them, always. So that's why at the law school.
But you're a law professor now.
Well, unfortunately, up until 10 years ago, we didn't call ourselves professors. They didn't want us to say
because you were adjuncts.
No, because we weren't. Yeah, whatever. They didn't want us calling themselves professors, and believe me, we didn't want to be called professors.
Why? Why not?
Because you've heard that old saying, those that can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those that can't teach others to do.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
We didn't want to be in that. Now I'm in that boat.
What do you do when a student comes to you and says, I hate law school, I don't want to be
I haven't had
lawyer.
any that have said
You
that
haven't?
so far. But the reason why I do what I
But they all do. Well, no, a lot of them just really do. It's a 3-year hazing.
Well, it is. But the fun part is if you take the clinic, that's fun. The downer is if you take the clinic your second year of law school.
Hey, guess what?
How you doing, sir? It's good to see you. Yeah. It's nice to see you. It's so cool that you guys are partners.
Come in.
You would never think that
Take a seat.
we made lifelong friends in the clinic.
I know. The clinic is fun,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always enjoyed it, and I've always told them that as long as it's fun, I'll do it, and it's still fun.
Move up. They're going to kind of maybe need
Okay.
to center you. So what you want, so he's never been on the podcast before.
Oh, you haven't?
We've done
No.
this for a year. And so Dan, hand on the mic, thumb away. That's how far you want to be from it.
Okay.
Like that.
I honestly, I came here just to see you.
Because he's been avoiding this.
Yeah.
You have it, yeah. I
I
can
was
see
telling
why.
my wife just today that we all have attorneys that we model ourselves after.
Yeah.
For better or worse, I picked you.
For worse. But I don't know if you're. I didn't teach you much because obviously you learned something without it because you're doing divorce work, man. I couldn't do that.
He won 2 jury trials in law school.
Yeah,
if you remember
in
that.
your clinic, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Who were the judge? It was before.
Wow, I don't even remember.
Judge Ellis was gone by then. Was it the new courthouse?
It was the new court.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ellis
Wasn't
was.
it?
It might have been. See, Ellis. When did he retire? But God, he was good.
Dan Wide?
Maybe.
White? Yeah, he's still
that
there.
actually does ring a bell.
Yeah, Dan White. Okay, yeah. Well, he's still down
I
there.
remember when you did that. I had some. I think I sat in on a little bit of.
Yeah,
you
because I
doing
remember
that.
everyone was scared to get in a jury trial, and then I had two, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
I did one jury. I did an examining trial. If you remember, I got my verdict back in less than 1 minute. You weren't there. It was Michelle that sat with me on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's semi contested. When you've got the other side basically agreeing with me that my client is not competent because she had schizophrenia, and it was to send her away until maybe she can get confident to be tried for the case. And I remember I told them, look, none of us want to be here. Y'all don't want to be here. It's really clear. So what you need to do is y'all walk back in the jury room. When the last one walks through the door, as you walk in, you turn around and look at everybody else. The last one that walks in the door, y'all all nod to each other, and whoever's the last one to walk in the door, that's the foreman, and y'all go yes, and then you come back and we're done.
And you timed it. Did you guys
They
time
walked out. Here, I can tell you how long it was. You can time it right now. They walked out. They closed the door. I took a breath. I sit down, and the light comes on. And they go, and I remember somebody, either the bailiff or somebody go, oh, they must have a question. Bailiff walks out, comes back, no, they have a verdict.
Well, we did them. I remember one time Cunningham had two of them that morning. So we had to do two of them. Well, they got enough guys to do one jury panel. And the second one, it really scratched. So he's hunting around. So we just pled somebody. So we took our client, me, the law student, and three other people, and that's all they had for a panel, and for the jury, And we had timed the other one, and they'd done it in like 26 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So we decided we were going to try and beat that.
Nice.
We didn't make it. Hell, we did it in 32.
I should have timed. I didn't even think that I didn't think it was going to work that well. That was just kind of the Hail Mary. Let's see what happens. And it just.
Well, the joke is those are the scariest cases of all, because can you imagine getting a hung jury on one of those? It'd be like, I got to hang up my law license.
Or losing one.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Dallas County, of all places, right?
Yeah. Because nobody trusts lawyers or shrinks, So that was the biggest fear was, oh my God, if we get a hung jury on this, we got to find another line of work.
So we were talking about Mike's questionable use of dextridine.
No, it was normal. It was normal back then.
It was normal. It was.
But it was a real shock when first time I realized it as a prosecutor. All these years, I went, my God, so I cut his rec way down. But I couldn't believe all that time I was given recommendations to 2 years for 2 years and $2,000 fine on
a diet pill.
Yeah. It's a diet pill. Oh my God.
So how's the clinic going now?
It's doing good. The new dean is really a good guy.
Cool.
And he, the old dean, thank God she's gone. She was just awful to the law school and was really running it into the ground. And they had, she had decided and approved.
If it makes any difference, I'm pretty sure she hated me in law school.
Oh yeah, she was.
You want to know why she hated? And I almost got
this
sideways.
Not the dean you had. No, you're thinking.
Who?
I'm thinking of the dean, the real dean.
Oh, maybe I was
Collins. Collins.
No, I have no idea who that is.
There was somebody else there for an interim.
Really?
Yeah. I will tell you this. She wasn't doing her job. They didn't hit me up for money once while she was
But the new dean is.
They used to hit me up for money, and whenever they did for the criminal defense clinic, I would actually donate to that. Otherwise, I am fairly opposed to making any donations to the law
and
school.
we would never get it because
What?
The dean of the clinics would steal it, use it for civil stuff.
Wow.
I designated specifically for the criminal defense clinic because of you and Michelle.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't go to you?
No, we didn't even know about it.
Oh, wow.
So that was the stuff that was going on, and
I can't believe stuff like that
That's pretty
happens.
shady.
God.
Oh,
Are you
yeah,
kidding?
It was bad. It was bad. But with the new dean,
You sure you want to go on record with this part of this?
I don't care. Hey, I don't care.
Are you tenured at this point?
No, I don't have any bennies there.
Well, he is talking nicely about the current dean, so.
Yes.
He's good for the school because
Good.
he didn't start off. He's kind of like you and me. he started off in education. And I can't remember whether he went to Brigham Young, undergrad, and he was an educator. He taught middle school in Houston for 3 years. And then he eventually went to law school, and fortunately for us, he did not go to NYU or Yale or Harvard. I think he went to Notre Dame, but he's not one of those kind of lawyers or law professors.
I think the best thing that they could do for law school, for the vast majority, half of their students, teach them how to run the business of a law firm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
I took law firm management at the time, and it was the worst course I've ever taken on any subject or anything ever. We were taught nothing during that course. Didn't even know what we were going to be graded on or any of that stuff. And it was a shambles. I finally had to join. It cost me, I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in taking courses like that one, How to Manage a Small Law Firm. I've taken Lee Rosen's course. I've Alexis Neely's stuff, Raj Jha, Sam Mulaney now, like at CRISP. There's all these different courses. I'm in six figures on giving myself basically a master's degree in how to run the business of a law firm. And I've written a book on it.
I don't think they'd pay you very much to do it, but you can teach the class there. I don't know how they would.
Any amount of money is going to be irrelevant to the
as long as it's
time
fun.
I'm spending on it. But I would do it as it's a charitable type of thing.
Yeah. The way you handle
and hopefully
the law
I'd find
school
some young lawyers to
or
hire.
any college, if you're going to get associated with them, is if it's fun, you do it. If it's not, you get out immediately.
Exactly.
Well, it's like taking a business course, like people that want to run a business.
Yeah.
And it's just like a master's degree. You don't learn how to run a business. You're just learning about the stuff.
Yeah, they always used to start
You
whenever.
have to actually run a
Experience
business.
is what I hire for. When I get resumes from young lawyers, I got one, and they said, I have extensive knowledge and experience in blah, 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 whatever it was. And immediately he was disqualified. But I reached out to him and I said, look, I hire for law firms. You know what I want? I want the lawyer that's going to tell me, I don't know why the hell you would hire me because I don't know anything. But I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to teach, and I'll do what because I just don't know anything.
Yep.
But here's my general personality traits and what I can do to learn. You're the one I want. What you're telling me is you don't have any bad habits and you don't have any ego problem about the fact that you're an idiot and completely have no knowledge whatsoever. The only people that know anything are people that have come through the clinics and who have some kind of experience. But if all they have is book knowledge and all they've done is take tests, then here's what you did. You got your credential for the law degree so that you could sit for the bar exam and get that credential. And now you're on day one of learning anything.
This dean, he might. If you approached him, he's busier than heck right now because.
Dana, you're
but
opening
he
yourself
was
a job right here.
But he.
Jen, you're already telling me stop doing so much, and now you want to add a course I have to teach.
I'm encouraging you to do it, and I'll take on the rest of the burden. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should.
This
if
new
we bring
dean,
these next two lawyers in that we're talking to, I will do it.
What he did, he showed up in August, and he was here 2 days. The second day he was on campus was our first day of orientation. It was August the 11th or 12th or something. I can't remember. But anyway, he's walking down the hall, and we've had those kids in there for like an hour and a half. We just met them ourselves, And he comes down, and they introduce the new dean. Well, welcome aboard. We're doing the criminal clinic, and we're doing our orientation right now. I says, oh, really? Do you mind if I come in and meet the students? I said, no, go on in. He goes in, and he gives such a great talk to them from the heart about how, it's going to be the greatest experience they have in law school. They're going to be representing people who are going to be depending on them for their futures, and it's so rewarding. There's no way in the world that you'd ever get that type of education. I mean, he knew.
I agree completely with
and
that.
It
was really the only thing I really cared about.
That's where he's
law
coming
school.
from, and he'd been there for 2 days.
Nice.
2 days, and I walked out of there, and
we need to get him on the podcast.
Oh, he's a neat guy. And I told Debbie Sanchez is working with me now. Brooke took
a paralegal.
Over. No.
Oh, okay.
She and I worked do the clinic together.
I had a paralegal named Debbie Sanchez. I was like, hold on, did you hire my former paralegal?
No. She's Juan Sanchez is her husband, and Juan and Brooke Busby did death penalty cases for years and years and years. They were like, work husband and wife.
I don't know how people do those.
When Brooke, she took over from Michelle, so she did it about 10
How long's
years.
Michelle been out?
Oh gosh, it's been probably 15 years.
Oh, I had no idea.
You know where she is, don't you?
She was at the DA's office doing
What, death penalty? Yeah,
death penalty in
not the
actual
DA,
innocence.
public defender's.
Not the public defender's
Public
office.
defender.
Yeah.
No, she
That's what I
got
meant.
hired to be the PD in Burnett County. So she's down in the hill country, Burnett,
Cool.
and it's just what a great job.
I mean, I see her post on Facebook. She seems very happy.
oh, she's great. Yeah,
I
she's
love
great.
her to death. She is
Yeah,
so
she
awesome
was
and
so
so nice
cool.
and so good at that job.
Yeah, and she's in heaven down there, and
The two of you guys were so good
it's fun
at the clinic.
She's cool, and Brooke was great. Now Debbie's when Brooke left, she made sure that she found a replacement, and that was Debbie, and it was a great pick on her part.
Nice.
So we're having lots of fun, and that dean, he's protecting us, making sure that it's like it was a long time ago when I don't have to do anything at all, have any connection at all with the faculty. Really for 30 years, I didn't know but 3 people on the faculty. I really didn't. I always knew who the dean was, and I knew Fred and
Fred Moss?
Yeah, Fred Moss.
I like Fred.
And
Fred actually was one of the first people that suggested that I should go in and teach a class on law firm management at SMU.
Well, he still comes around down here, so he'd be.
You want to know why that one interim dean, why she didn't like me? So I got called on in class. You know how you never want to be happen?
Yeah.
And I was completely not prepared, but kind of. Like I had kind of looked at it, but not enough to in any way understand it. And it was something about property or something. And I started out going, okay, I'm not good at this. And I think she goes, you're just not prepared. Like calls me out. And I'm like, okay. I didn't think I had even gotten that far to indicate that I really wasn't prepared, but all right. Maybe my body was speaking language that I wasn't aware of. And the bell rings and it's dismissed. And she goes, Mr. Palmer, you're going to be starting out next class. Okay. I could write a movie on what the hell happened to me over that 2-day period in my life to cause this catastrophe to where despite all of my absolute best efforts in life, I don't make that next class.
Oh no!
And it was
you didn't even show up.
I walk out, and I walk out of class going, watch this. I'm going to even up the stakes for myself because I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to flamboyantly demonstrate and be, or something, right? I'm going to walk in there like a peacock about how well I'm going to do with this, right? And I decided to do something freaky with my hair, like color it blue or something, and it goes real bad. And so I'm like, oh crap, I can't do this. And then I have an issue with my girlfriend and something about work. And I get sent home from work because I'm in no condition because of all these things that are just happening to me. I have car problem. I have every problem that you can possibly. It's just obstacle. Like I don't think I've had since those 2 days of my life. I finally don't go to class. Well, guess what? The whole class knows that Palmer's getting called on. We don't have to read.
Oh, man.
So the professor gets this realization. It wasn't just Palmer not reading. She goes, and from the story from Wayne James, a friend of mine who was telling me this, she goes down the line of 30 to 50 people who no one in the class can do this. And it's just destroying her image of what actually law school is supposed to be, right? Yeah. And she gets frustrated. I don't know if she cancels the class or what, but it was a nightmare for everybody. And somehow only he ever mentioned it to me about it. And I don't know who remembers it or not because everybody was just afraid of what happened. But yeah, that happened in our section. And
she never forgot.
I haven't discussed that since then, except with him, and I haven't wanted to mention it. But I think it's been 22 years statutes run.
You've actually told me this story.
Have I told you that story? Yeah. And so on graduation, we're going. I'm hugging a bunch of the professors, and I get to her, and I'm like, It's one of the most awkward things because I was like, I didn't know whether to hug her. I think we had this awkward shake, and it was the weirdest experience. I felt so bad because I realized like, oh, this is, it was just, it was one of those things like if I had really thought about it and been not this destroyed person who had just been through this 3-year hazing, tired as hell, working a full-time job.
Yeah, I remember that.
And putting in 110 hours a week to the point of damn near collapse, just physically. If I would have had more of my wits about me at that time, I would have realized, I should have just been nice. And because I'm like that almost all the time with almost everybody, even people. I give a lot of grace, and especially dealing with divorce for so long.
Yeah, you learn it.
I deal with these damaged people, and I've learned how to move through that.
Well, and I was trying to explain to him how our whole firm is because we're not the normal divorce attorneys.
Yeah.
We're soft divorce. So because divorce doesn't have to be so hard.
Yep.
So we want our clients to get through this process in the easiest way.
Well,
and like I was
healthiest
telling you,
way. Because it's not necessarily easy, and we take some damn hard cases.
Yeah.
But it's if you're skiing, if you're looking at the trees, what are you going to do? You're going to hit the trees. Where do you have to look? In the space between the trees of where you want to go. Your car's spinning out. What do? You point the wheels in the direction you want to go. You're driving a NASCAR. You're going around in a circle to the left. Hey, you're making a left turn. What's happening now, Steve? He's making a left turn. So a lot of left turns. Well, that wall's on the right. You look at the wall, you're going to hit the wall. Where do you look? You look where it is that you want to go, and that's where you drive. So we focus on what's healthy. That's our guiding post. And we don't measure things in terms of win or lose or dollars or how much time. You balance all the factors because a lot of attorneys think it's about win or lose. Criminal defense, it's about win or lose.
Oh, yeah.
Guilty, not guilty. Real ascertainable standards, right?
Yep.
Or death penalty or not death penalty. Or how much time do you get? Or did you get probation or did you not? Ascertainable.
Yeah.
Civil litigation, did you get the money or not? How much did you get, or how much did you save yourself from having to pay? It's a real big win or lose. Family law, it's not about that. Money is usually an important factor.
How do you get paid?
How do we get paid?
Yeah.
We get paid by the hour.
Okay.
We get advance retainers from our clients most of the time, or we have to get secured by some property or something that they own. We have to get paid in advance. There are sometimes, I will tell you this, our law firm has delivered more than $1 million worth of unpaid legal services out of pure charity to helping people.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to look. I think we've crossed the $2 million threshold.
Wow.
I'm afraid to look. I'm afraid to ask my wife, who is the control. She is the control. What's her title? Controller.
Controller.
Yeah, she's the controller of the law firm that knows what all our numbers is. I'm afraid to ask and point that out to her, especially now because we're one of our dogs is having surgery tomorrow.
Podcast station.
Some of them. I try to get her out here. She's been out here like one time and she's awesome on it, but she's so shy and introverted that it's just like not her thing. But
yeah, I had to fire my wife. She worked in my office, and
that's probably a real good thing to do. So when I was,
she was doing things like telling clients, since I never set or collect fees, that if you don't pay, then he's gonna withdraw from your case.
That's basically your wife's job.
But you can't do that in a criminal case.
Well,
I hear this from my wife every
can.
day.
Well, that's why, especially in a criminal case, the money that you get up front is the money that you're getting on that
right.
case.
That's it. Yeah.
And you have to get real good at digging and finding out what their resources are and helping them to ask relatives for help if that's what they need.
See, that's valuable. That's what you ought to be teaching.
That's what I would intend to teach in law school.
Because
a lot of it is in that book.
Because every time we used to do CLEs that you were required to go to, and the guys would get up and talk about how you did your fees.
Yep.
And they'd always start
This
with,
book is actually the paper that I wrote for a CLE, converted into and expanded a little bit. I did teach with this. I taught it with Audrey Moorhead. Judge. You're in front of her a lot, probably.
Yeah. Did she go to SMU? Oh, you met her afterwards?
I think she went to Baylor maybe. But I don't know where she went. I've met her in the past
He's
5
done
or 6 years.
You've done a couple of presentations with her now.
Yeah,
at
I've
this
done
point.
some CLEs with
She
her.
came on the
ghostwrote
podcast
one
too.
of 'em.
We need to get that band on there because we are very entertaining, and I love giving CLEs with her because it's funny and it's fun, and we joke around with it, and it's just she's real easy to play off. She's been on the podcast too.
Well,
And
see,
that was
because
a
whenever
great show.
they talk about fees and how you set those, how you have to, you've got some that are contingent, how you do all that stuff.
Yep.
They always assume, okay, now you have your fee, and then you would, they always start with it. No, wait a minute, back up a minute. We got to get the fee first. They never talk about
They
it.
don't tell you how to do it.
No.
They never tell you how to sell legal services.
Yeah.
And the issue here's a question. This is something that R. John Robbins taught me on that day of that conference that I went to was, what's the business of a law firm? And no attorney can answer the question. They're like, oh, to help people to do this. No. What's the business of McDonald's? They sell burgers and fries. What's the business for a law firm? You sell legal services. That's it. That's the business. And then you deliver the legal services. You can't deliver legal services unless you sell the legal services first. And if you don't sell them, you're doing a disservice to everybody.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the other half of what I noticed with everybody that advertised. You'd have these young lawyers get out and advertise. When it first started, and you'd see some of these lawyers would have the back page of the yellow pages. They don't even exist anymore. But back then, you'd get the phone books. Mm-hmm. And they get the whole back cover of a phone book. That's super expensive.
Yep. And
But
that's
here's the
the
problem.
only real effective one is the back cover. When we do magazines, I either want the front cover or the back cover, or it's not worth doing.
But see, here's the deal. There's only 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these young lawyers they'd get
Pay all that money. How do you make that money back? in order to
Yes.
pay it? And then you have to deliver
you
the
have-
services.
You have to deliver them.
You
And what
kill
happens is you can get lots of calls.
Mm-hmm.
You could spend 24 hours a day just talking to prospects. That's the problem. Is you only got 24 hours a day, and they don't have any. Even the Tesla guy, Musk, he doesn't have any more time than we do.
Right.
Everybody's got 24 hours. That's it.
That's right.
And so, boy, I see that.
Well,
some
that
of these
is
people
why-
would get these huge nuts.
And they do free consults. There's only one area of law that should do a free consult, and that's personal injury.
Yeah, that's
no
true.
others.
That's true.
Every other area of law should be charging a fee. And for example, for you, if you charged a $1,000 consult fee, no problem whatsoever. And if I was to consult for you and your business with the level of experience and the referral base that if you simply keep top of mind awareness in and remind them, you will have an infinity of clients, and that will pay you $1,000 just for you to consider whether to take their case.
Yeah, that's amazing. See, because it's too late for me.
Mike, well, so for me, when I wrote the book, I was doing $197 or $297 for in-person, $197 on the phone. Why do I like on the phone? Because I don't have to pay for dry cleaning. I don't have to drive to the office.
Right.
I don't have to drive in to meet them. It costs me another 30 minutes worth of my time, and it's not even worth the $100 difference. And a lot of attorneys, they think, oh, I can't sell. They have to meet me in person to believe me or any of that. I go, follow the steps to sell in this book. I have sold 50 cases from Disney World. I'm not kidding you.
That's true.
From standing inside Disney World. And you know how long it takes me to bring in a $10,000 case while standing at Disney World?
Really?
28 minutes.
Disney World?
It's true.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine.
You do work in Florida?
No.
No, but he'll be at
But I'll
Disney
take the
World,
calls.
and he'll take the
I'll do the
Oh,
initial
okay.
consultations
Oh, yeah.
from Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
I have a
in
friend
the
of mine.
park.
He's got cerebral palsy. He looks absolutely, completely, highly special needs, but it's only physical.
Yep.
He's got, and so cerebral palsy is like when you're using your hand, it's like driving a boat as opposed to we're like Corvettes.
Yep.
He's like driving a boat, in his physical motor stuff. And he looks just very sympathetic, but he's funny as hell. And he is one of the most intelligent people ever. He's got that photographic memory. He can tell me what days we went where 5 years ago. And he loves to go to Disney World. And I meet with him. We work on his business. He works on
and he's
mine.
a
We
lawyer.
mastermind with, and he's a lawyer. And so, but he likes to meet at Disney World. and he has the DA pass, disability access pass.
Right.
So we go right on the rides.
That's
we
nice.
We wait 2 hours, our time in line, just talking with each other. And once every 2 or 3 hours, we go ride a 15-minute ride. And we've spent about 60 days at Disney World over the past 2 years.
Is he from here?
He is from Georgia.
So how'd you meet him?
I met him in R. John Robbins' program
Oh, okay.
10 years ago.
Okay.
And I got out of the program after like 2 years because I had completely outgrown it. And I happened to go back to one of the seminars because I was like, I need some kind of coach. I need something, just for more personal growth. And I happened to go, and he happened to go to that same one just randomly, and I see him, and his name's Bill Neighbors. And so, the Mr. Rogers, won't you be my neighbor?
Yeah.
I go, his name is Bill Neighbors. And Bill goes, he starts trying to turn around, and he has this, when he's happy, he looks like a little kid. And he was a Make-A-Wish kid.
Yeah.
And went to Disney World, was his Make-A-Wish, right?
Yeah.
He's been that kid, and ever since then, he doesn't like going to Universal Studios. He either wants to go to Vegas or the Bahamas, Atlantis, or Disney World. And I asked him, I was like, hey, dude, why don't you like going to Universal or whatever? And he goes, because they don't treat me like a king there. He likes going to Disney because when we watch how business operation happens at Disney, it reminds us we own a business. And I'm responsible for the livelihood and prosperity of more than 50 people. Any little decision that I make, any little change has this massive compounded effect that massively increases and affects people's lives.
So your whole firm, everybody works at home.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yes.
have paralegals.
Yep.
You have young attorneys.
Paralegals, young attorneys, legal assistants. We have
And what
personal
kind of
assistants. We have
Receptionists.
administrators. We have intake people.
What type of electronic? Zoom isn't good enough, is it?
Well, we use Zoom for that, but most of what we do, if we have a computer and a phone, we're at work.
Yeah.
And internet connection.
And we
but
have
to.
a system called MyMeister. So
Okay.
it looks like
So
an
mind
organiza-
mapping program.
Yeah, it looks like an organizational chart. And
Yeah.
so our clients have access to that.
Yeah.
And so they can see and view us working on their stuff.
We record our phone calls and
Yeah.
provide those to the client.
We're very transparent.
And they can listen to it. In our system, when we're drafting documents, they can see every little change, time, minute, second stamped, every
cool.
single thing.
Pretty cool.
They can observe, for the most part, almost everything that we do. There's a few things, like when we're talking one on each other and communicating, and because we will, I basically do similar to what you do for the young attorneys there.
Yeah.
And Daniel is the managing attorney for both our family law department and our estate planning and probate department. Because essentially what we are is trial attorneys who really avoid trial by being perfectly prepared for trial and being amazing negotiators. But when we go to trial, we also don't take clients that want revenge. We want clients that believe what we believe and why we do what we do. We're trying to get our clients through the divorce process or the child custody process in the healthiest way possible. Mm-hmm. And we are a family law steakhouse with an estate planning probate dessert course. I actually like probate litigation the best. Why? Because we're usually fighting over money that none of them earned, and I'm earning it. So I'm happy to get paid for the work that I'm doing, and I don't have to particularly mend a family relationship, but my family law experience and how often we do have to mend a family law relationship.
Yeah.
Because in a divorce, they're always going to be mom, they're always going to be dad. If I go to war with them, how do you then come back and, but we're going to be great co-parents for the kids? No. My first tactic is declare peace and negotiate the terms of the peace. But if we have to go to war, I'm going to win the war. No question. We had a case, that jury trial that I mentioned was a family law jury trial, which there's only like 100 in the entire state a year. And it's torture for the clients, but it was unavoidable. So finally, I go do it. And we got $144,000 in attorney's fees from the other side, no custody whatsoever from the other side, sole managing conservatorship with all rights and duties to our client, no geographic restriction on the part of our client. The other side still pays child support. We basically terminated his parental rights, but made him still pay child support. Because most terminations, you terminate child support, everything. No, there is nothing else we could have possibly won. And that's usually what happens. Why? Because I usually have the high ground. I got the non-asshole.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And we tell that to people, and people that come in and they want. Now, sometimes people think that that's what they want, but that's why I do the initial consultations, because my number one best job is the clarity and counseling. It's mission work for me. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I'm convinced of it based on my life's experiences, and I know the right things to do, and I can give clarity. And I've taken, like this book with Winning in Mind. This is an Olympic gold medalist. His name's Lanny Basham. In fact, I will give you one of these too as a gift to you.
What was his event at Olympics?
1972
Shooting.
rifles. And then 1972 he won silver. 1976 he won gold.
Oh, he's in Munich, huh?
And he figured out, yes. And he figured out what the mindset is that you have. And for family law and what I do, mindset is the most important thing. And when we change their mindset from divorce, we're going to try and get you as much as you want, and focus on money, how much money can we get you, all that? Yes, money's an important factor. And it's not like we overlook any of that. But it's usually not the most important factor. But when you balance all the goals and look at what is healthy, you can almost every single time get better results for your client and even the other side than you ever can legally possibly by going to court.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the reasons why it's taken me, I'm my board certification application, because of that jury trial that I just got, and finally I have everything. It's taken me 17 years to get qualified, because I haven't failed enough to have all those qualifications showing how much I have to fight in court. I've done thousands of cases, more cases than almost every other attorney with in my level of practice, because of how I'm able to efficiently do this, because of all the law firm management courses that I've taken. And all those courses, immediately I became a much better lawyer. And I went from doing $400,000 worth of work, killing myself, collecting $80,000, to within, I joined the program in July, and that first year I collected $200,000. The next year we did $800,000. The year after that we crossed $1 million, and this year we're going to do $2.5 million, if not $4 million. We're going to be somewhere in that range because of the growth and things that we're doing, and that gross revenue, not
Right.
But and running the business properly has made it so much easier for me to focus only on the things that I really need to focus on, and I provide business support for Daniel, who's in the trenches. And then if there's anything that he needs, like he's much more in the trees, I'm much more the forest. And that dynamic, even being able to talk and consult, and I'll ask him just key questions about, okay, tell me where we are in that. And then even just one of the things, and you may want to do this technique, I boiled it down to very simply. I go, Daniel, tell me why we win. On this hearing that we're going to do tomorrow, tell me why we win. Because that's your opening, that's your close, and that's those are your themes. And it helps to do. So we do rehearsals before we're ever going to have a hearing. And we do great if we ever have to do it. But you know what? Court is torture for our clients.
Yeah,
and so, and I could spend less time going in and just having a hearing. And by the way, court is lawyer Disneyland. I actually like going to court a hell of a lot more than I actually like going to Disneyland. There's nothing more fun. There's no game more interesting and more fun, more dynamic, and all that waiting tables. I'm so personable and understanding, can watch people and look for their happiness and read body language and everything from all that experience.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly trained to do that. And there's no drug as good as doing a jury trial. I love it, but it's torture. And I got to do everything possible to avoid that. And by avoiding that, we get healthy results for our clients like 99% of the time. We go to a final trial 1% when we actually need to analyze our most recent year. But we analyzed it. 1% of the time we go to a final trial. 90% of the time we don't go to any court hearings or whatever. We get it completely done by negotiation. Do we prepare for a temporary? You know what a temporary order hearing is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's for the benefit of the audience. It's a hearing that you have to determine who pays for what, and for the kids while the divorce is pending. You know what happens between now and the time that we get a full and final settlement, and it's a big deal, because how that goes can determine how the rest of it goes. And in Collin County, especially, you get 20 minutes aside. You have to be real well prepared to be able to do that and give the entire story. Well, plenty of times we will get there and we spend the entire day negotiating and get a good, healthy settlement that's better than either side could have won going into court.
Were they called show causes back in your day?
I don't remember. I mean, I stayed out of it as much as I could, you know.
When I was a young lawyer, somebody was like, "We're here for a show cause," and I was like, "What is that?" Turns out it was a temporary order hearing. I'd never heard the term.
Anyway.
That didn't just happen to me. That happened with another lawyer who's a friend of ours as well.
We see
from
it.
SMU.
We see it on the Facebook groups. People will ask that.
I just remember TROs, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do enough. Thank goodness I didn't have to do enough divorce stuff. I finally found what I'm good at, what I was good at, was I'm not a very good lawyer, but I know all the good lawyers, and that was the real valuable thing. You know, when I first started practicing, you know, I didn't feel confident at all being a lawyer because all I'd ever done is defend people in the military. I'd done a lot of it, but I wanted to go to a law firm just for the experience to say, been there, done that. And then I was going to quit practicing and go do something else, whatever. I didn't know what it was going to be, but it wasn't.
I have no idea about that. Sounds familiar, right?
I didn't know what it was going to be, but it wasn't going to be practicing law. But I felt really, for several years, I felt real inferior because I didn't know anything. And when you go out on your own in a city, you know, what happens is, you know, a client comes in, they have the same problem if it's business as some huge corporation, but they don't have any money, but it's the same problem.
Yep.
And when you're a little guy, you know, my blood pressure went up because every time that phone would ring, it'd be another problem I didn't know how to solve. And I learned, you know, a lot of different, who the best lawyers in different fields were, the best bankruptcy, the best real estate,
Yep.
the best you know, I knew all of those people. I just farmed them out. But it wasn't for years, maybe 10 years after I started doing, you know, lots of DWIs. It wasn't until then that I realized in a city, to practice in a city, you can't do it all.
Yep.
You get a tiny slice of it, and if you get really knowledgeable in just one little area,
Yep.
that's good enough.
Yep.
I had a friend, Reed Jackson. He's dead now, but Reed practiced in Fairfield. He's from Fairfield.
Can you center up on that mic?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's from Mahia, actually, but Fairfield's right down the road. And he's a country lawyer. And man, those guys, first of all, I couldn't live like that in small town because you're living in a fishbowl. You know, you got to go to church, you got to go to the Lions Club, you know, you got to do all those nice things. And then, you know, you represent somebody, you might represent somebody in a divorce, and then the next week, you know, you're going to see their cousin, their aunt, their family. You know, it's just a different. That's different. And the other thing is, they have to know everything. So those poor guys.
It's really stressful.
Oh, they have to go to seminars on. He was a great personal injury lawyer, divorce lawyer, criminal law.
Yeah.
You have to do that in a small town. In a place like Dallas, you can't do that because what happens is you're going to be very poor or maybe half-assed on everything.
Yep.
And so many really good specialists in a city that you're not providing good providing good service. So
and
you have
it's
to
more stressful, worse
but it
service.
took me years to realize that. That's one thing. If
That's
you start
exactly
teaching this,
what
you need to tell people.
That's the first thing that.
Don't
in week
feel
4
bad
of that
about-
program.
Don't feel bad about not knowing everything.
That's right.
You got to, you're not going to know it.
My coach made me pick a niche.
Yeah. You got to do that in a city.
Yep. And
I
the
don't
other
see how
thing is
those
you're
guys
eating
do
your
it.
own bait. Because if you, as a criminal defense attorney, also take family law, also take probate, also do civil litigation, also all these other areas, then none of those areas can refer you a case that they don't do. So a family law only attorney can't recommend you a criminal case because you'll take their next family case.
Well, yeah.
So all those other cases that come in, that's your bait. Farm those out and you'll get reciprocal referrals from them, and you can do the one thing that you're really good at and be known and be top of mind awareness for.
Yeah. But it took really a long time for me to finally accept
Because
the fact.
law school doesn't teach you that.
Well, I didn't.
Well, you might
I
not
didn't
have,
care.
you might not have been in class that
No,
day.
I probably wouldn't.
That's another thing. It's hard when you're younger just to figure out what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, it is. With me, it was really, God, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I just, I wanted to do everything and have every experience. And I just never wanted, that was the sad part is once you make a decision, you eliminate all the other possibilities. That's another thing that people don't realize. You have all this opportunity. It's like these kids that come back from the sandbox, they want to go out, leave the service and get a job. They have so many job opportunities. They don't take any of them because, if they do that, they can't do any of these other things for the rest of their life because and so what happens is they don't do anything. They get more and more
Paralyzed.
depressed. So, with me, the only thing that solved it, and it's not a good way to solve it, but was what the microsecond I realized I was going to be a parent. And it happened that fast. In 1 microsecond, I was down in the clinic, and Gloria called and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And bam, half a second. That's all it took. I realized it's not about me anymore. So doesn't matter what I do in 5. Who cares? It's not about me. So but if you're single, that's why I think a lot of lawyers go through depression when they're about 32 or 33. They get real depressed because they go through that, especially if they're solo practitioners. They look at, what am I doing here? What
It was at
this?
that age too.
What am I doing? What's my this is no. I don't have a future here.
well,
what am I going to be?
You went through
Tell
that.
them your story about what
This
what you
didn't
went
turn
through.
out the way that I thought it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
No,
been
no,
through
but solve my problem,
Yeah.
I don't worry. It's not about me anymore. And then finally when they're, if raising kids, how old are y'all's kids?
We have a 19-year-old,
Oh,
a
good.
12-year-old,
and a
nice.
6-year-old.
What do you got?
I had some rent-a-kids for a while.
Okay. Rented kids?
So, Mike, if you're ever at church and somebody goes, "Mr. Mike, if something happens to me, will you take care of the kids?" You say no.
Yes.
I said yes. The youngest was 15 at the time, and I figured, I'm in the
Boy
clear.
or girl?
The
girl?
4 kids,
Okay.
and they're black. I actually, because I did this, I have a half a black card. I can say black. Can't drop an N-word, but I can say black.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, we say black. You can say black, Dad." But the youngest was 16, and Sharon passed away on her 16th birthday.
Wow.
And there was no question of whether or not Summer and I were going to do it. But we did ask everyone on the list if anybody had a preference for wanting to do it. No one else was even willing to consider it.
Yeah.
And so, and that was an interesting story. If you subscribe to the podcast, we've kind of gone into that a little bit. And it's kind of like, you get 4 kids and then you put one on a spinning wheel, in quarters of the wheel, and you just spin it, and one of them's coming into liking us, one of them's coming out of liking us, one of them's going into hating us, and one of them's coming out of hating us. It's just like it's just how it is and was. And we did the 18-month parenting plan instead of the 18-year parenting plan, but otherwise we don't have any biological kids of our own. We got 4 dogs, one of which I hesitate to even mention, who's going into surgery tomorrow, and it's tearing me apart. But that's why I was late this morning, because we were at the vet for an emergency.
How old's your dog?
Thinking about him. So we have one of them, the one that's actually doing real well. 3 of them are doing well. 13 and a quarter Dalmatian. We have another Dalmatian that's like 8, another Dalmatian that's like 5, and then this one, he's about 5. We found him when he was about a year old.
Dalmatians can live to be 16, 17 years old.
Well, Worthy is
Most of them don't. Most of them,
He's a Brittany.
like 12 is about to cut
he's
off,
like,
but they can.
He's a mix. So he's got like a
Yeah.
little bit of pit bull, Brittany in him.
Boxer.
Boxer, yeah.
He's like 15% pit bull,
I can see the
45%
boxer.
Brittany,
We found him on the
22%.
courthouse stairs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I
he was
found
on
him
the
together.
courthouse steps after
He's
we
a
had finished
puppy.
a
Sweetest dog.
After we had finished a temporary order hearing,
Yeah.
and the dog is the namesake of one of our former clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those dogs will rip your heart out. My son
It's killing
had
me.
one. He had one.
They sleep in the bed with us. I mean, he's our kid, basically.
This dog was with my son. Oh, I turned this thing off. 17 years.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Over half of his life
Wow.
was with that dog. everybody knew both of them. Knew the dog. They were inseparable. What a neat dog. And it was half Dalmatian, we think, because it had the spots on it.
Oh yeah,
But
I
it-
remember.
but it had-
he had that dog when we
Yeah.
were in law school, right?
Yeah.
Because I vaguely remember you talking about that because I had a Dalmatian before.
There it is, that dog.
Oh, wow.
And that dog, it went through the ringer. Boy, she was a great dog. 17 years.
That's
amazing.
great, especially if it's a good, healthy 17
is it
years.
great? Yeah, it was. The last
That's
year,
awesome.
she took him on her last walk. He's out in Huntington Beach, and everybody knows him in the community. You know, there's surfer dudes out there. And one of the neighbors saw him carrying her.
Oh.
Passed on the walk.
No,
Oh,
last walk,
Oh.
and then took her in.
we had
She couldn't walk. She was so old.
So my wife Summer. We one of y'all call Summer and have her come out at least to meet Mike. But I'm not good enough for my. I mean, I try to be, but she's my wife's awesome. But she had a Dalmatian before we got married, and
Yeah.
he actually moved in with me first. But his legs went out, and so we had to put him in a wagon.
Yeah.
And take him down the elevator. I was living in an apartment downstairs and take him out, 5-6
Yeah.
times a day.
Yeah.
And then pick him up out of it and help
Yeah.
him, hold him while he's doing his business and all. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
Tough to
it's
lose a dog.
they'll rip your heart out.
And especially this one who's having the surgery is 5 years old. And I think I know why he's having the issues is because he's got, they did like an MRI or an X-ray or something.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 4 pellets, BBs. Somebody shot him with a BB.
Okay, yeah.
And he was real badly abused before
Get
we
him
got him.
in a joint or something.
They're like
okay.
on his stomach or something.
Yeah, but he has a
and
tumor
things.
on his kidney.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is those BBs are probably made of lead.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
getting lead poisoning.
Good, yeah.
And so I don't.
Can they take those out?
No.
No.
I wanted the surgeon to, and the surgeon goes, "Yeah, it's just impossible to find him."
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Well,
And that
Kinsey
broke my heart as much as anything.
Kinsey went with Matt. I mean, he was a, crazy college kid at Tech, and they rode her hard and put her up wet, for 3 years out there, and then he went out to Huntington Beach, and he took him with him to 6 months up in Vancouver. She'd been everywhere, and everybody knew that dog. It was just a great dog, and he even had a what would you call it, a telephone-a-thon or something, a fundraiser when she had to have surgery for her hip, a leg or hip, because what she would do is she would pull everybody along on the skateboard. I mean, that's how she'd go for
Oh.
walks. And one
Hard
of
on
his
the
friends,
joints,
one of his friends took her for a walk, and jumped off the skateboard, and stopped her right away, and that's probably what caused the knee or whatever it was. But he had a big deal out there at the beach, raised money to pay for Kinsey. It's for Kinsey, so they all donated.
I bet.
That's
I bet they raised that money in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. And he's got another one now. After a year, he got another one.
So how old are your kids?
40 and 43. Yeah.
Wow.
That was the
How old are you now?
78.
Mike,
You look amazing.
Well,
you look the exact same.
Honestly, you look the same way
have any
as
hair.
20 years ago.
I don't remember you ever having any hair.
Yeah,
you had
good,
hair?
no.
Yeah. Did you start the criminal clinic at
No,
SJA?
no,
Were you
I
the
did
first?
not. It was Walter Steele and Rourke Reed started it. They started it a year before I got
Professor
involved.
Reed?
in it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I forgot about Professor Reed because he
Yes.
was the third professor. Because I always
Yeah.
remember it was you and Michelle.
Yep.
But I do remember that Rourke was there too.
Yeah, Rourke
Yeah.
did the grades.
I forgot. Now that you mention, I remember all. Yeah, he did do all the grades and stuff, didn't he?
Yeah. They had to have, because we were just part time.
He was
I'm still
great,
just
too.
part time. I'm just part timer.
You're part-time that works there all the time.
Yeah, but it's not work. If it's, believe me, if it wasn't fun, I'd be out of there.
I mean, I think you're effectively running a law firm. But you notice there's a parallel. You also don't have to charge those clients.
no, that's right. That's why. No, you're exactly right.
And I bet it's because of that. If you have any issues with your law firm and collecting, you have to make money, Mike.
I hated that, setting a collective fee. And the fun thing about the clinic was it made me kind of a hinky guy because I was always a number two. You know, I had to do all the objections over the years. But with my own practice, you know, we were in trial so much, you know, for the longest time. We tried things every week. We were in trial. And so with my own cases, I could age them like good wine. And usually good things happen.
Settle out or something after a while.
Yeah,
People
after
calm
a
down.
while, you know, you end up getting reductions, things like that.
Yep.
Or go
I
to
noticed that
trial.
too,
But I
yeah.
was in trial all the time. That was the fun part because I liked that part.
Oh yeah.
So I never grew up. Didn't have to.
You. Come over here. Come on. No, come on.
We've been talking about you. You might as well come in.
So, Mike, this is my wife, Summer. This is Mike McCollum. So, okay, for the benefit of everybody, I'll tell the camera here. So, Mike was, I have a hard time not looking at you. So I'll do it this way. Mike, it was Daniel and I's professor for the criminal defense clinic at SMU. It's where Daniel and I met. It's the one class that taught us anything useful whatsoever about actually what we do for a living. And he's an absolute hero in my life and one of my absolute favorite people that I've ever known. And I mean, I'd have to really sit down to think of if there's a professor that, I mean, I can count on on one hand.
Still.
So our best non-professor type of thing.
Yeah.
But you know, you and Michelle both, and then Fred Moss was also great. I remember there's a thing. I know you hate this. I'm torturing it. So, okay, what do judges say? You may be dismissed. What do they say?
No, don't say that to your wife. Are you kidding? Do what you want, dear.
Do whatever you want. Love you. Thank you for coming out. I would love for you to join us. We can pull up a chair. Yeah, I figured. All right, thank you.
Good to meet you.
So see, I did well.
Yeah, you did do well.
I'm showing off is really
Yeah.
So thanks for showing off, Summer. It's because you're pretty and sweet and nice and beautiful and better than I deserve. Picture of her.
Oh, there's one right there of her.
Is there?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
I'm blind.
I do have.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is from, I think we were in one of the magazines or something. They wrote us up. So that's her. That's a good picture of her. Can you catch that on camera? We'll show it later.
She's not a lawyer, is she?
No, thank God. I wanted her. So at the beginning of our marriage, I really wanted her to go to law school.
Oh no.
And I thank God that she didn't.
Yeah.
She never did, and thankfully, I have pushed her into doing a lot of things that she hasn't necessarily wanted to do. Like, for example, within our first month of marriage, I basically pushed her into quitting her job and coming to work for the firm because at the time I was looking at it. It was just me.
What was she doing at that time?
She was a project manager for a company called Smart Circle International. And you know how you go into Sam's or Walmart on the weekends and they have these booths and they're selling pallets and getting new customers and stuff. She was in charge of those type of things with certain products like Popcornopolis. She was one of the people that brought it to Dallas. So it's like triangular popcorn bags that people give away as gifts and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You can get those at Sam's still to this day. And she loved that job. And she was making about $45,000 a year. And me and my logic, I was like, project manager. Well, every case is like a project. And I need a paralegal. And you could do that and run the cases like, it's a project, but it's this project. And we would get to spend time together and work together. And you're the person I love the most in the world. That sounds awesome to me. So we got married about 3 or 4 years into. So within a year, that's when I go to that CLE and find that guy. And he gets me on that conference. And I tell him all this stuff. And I tell him how basically my law firm is ruining my marriage. And within 15 minutes, he goes, look, not only are you a good candidate for this program, he goes, you need this program. And if you don't do it, you're going to get a divorce. It's going to ruin your marriage. And I completely agreed with him. He said, you were one of the easiest and fastest sales I've ever done. Because I was completely sold. There's 7 steps of selling. Rapport, justification, probing, that's where you ask the questions. Salesman sees need, customer sees need, salesman proposes a solution, and then the close is where you actually do it. the proposes solutions where you ask for the money, but the customer sees need. Him asking questions about what my situation was, he saw the need immediately. I saw the need immediately. He said, "You need this program," and I said, "Yes. Where do I sign?"
When did you and Daniel end up getting together?
About
2015.
No.
Well, yeah,
Around
it's
2012, 13. So I had done this program.
Yeah.
Daniel sees, wow, you're doing great. And you were, where were you? You were wanting to go out on your own at that
I was
point?
wanting to go out on my own.
And you hadn't met Glenn yet.
I hadn't. Well, I knew Glenn. I'd known Glenn since elementary
Right.
or middle school, but no, I'd wanted to go out on my own. And I just happened. I don't know how I came. I think I came across one of your ads or something, and I was really proud of Dana because I was like, Dana was a kind of a train wreck in high school, in law
Kinda
school.
was.
I mean, he told you the story about how he skipped the day he was supposed to get called.
Yeah.
And that's initially what attracted me to Dana because I was like, this is not how I live my life. But this is so fascinating that here's this brilliant guy that'll do stuff like that. And I think I came.
I
across
do have a lot of, I'll call it courage, but it's balls.
I came across an ad or something he was doing, and I was like, wow, I'm really impressed. I just sent him like an email, and I was like, hey, man, I'm really proud of you. I'm glad to see that you're doing very good. And, hey, let me shadow you. I want to figure out how to run my own law firm. It's not what they teach you in law school. And of course I did, and he taught me family law, and kind of the rest is history. And
Well, go into more detail about that because then you went and you tried.
Well,
and did
because
it
he's done several different things.
I know he has. Yeah.
Yeah, you did school board law for like 10 years.
yeah,
Wow.
So he used to represent school districts.
Oh yeah.
that was a great area of practice too. That was a lot of appellate work, and really interesting constitutional issues. If you think of a school like a business, they have all the issues that a business has, except their school district. So it's and there's specialized laws that are set in place for a school district. So that was a great area of law to practice. But what ended up happening with that job was I worked for a solo practitioner, and one day my boss was like, "All right, I'm shutting up the firm. I'm retiring. You guys got to go figure out what you're going to do when you grow up." And the jobs migrated to Austin, and I had a talk with my wife about moving to Austin, and I was told, "Oh, hell no!" And so I essentially, after practicing law for about
Both
10
his
years,
and my wife are better than we are.
had to figure out what I'm going to do for
Better half is
a
literal.
living.
Well, and then he did Social Security Disability.
Yeah, I did that for a
So
little
you
bit. I want to try to figure it
represented a
out,
couple
and
years.
then I talked to Dana and tried to figure out how to do the solo thing because I was really impressed with what he was doing.
Yeah.
And then kind of just over time, I realized everyone needs like a salesman in their life.
Yeah.
He's one of the best legal sales guys I've ever encountered, if not the best.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily my forte. I'm okay at it, but he's excellent at
Yeah.
it. He bats about 95%, 99% on our intakes. If it was left to me, we might all go hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it takes special.
Yeah. It does take a special.
But you know
skill set.
what he was saying about all those years he waited tables?
Yeah.
No.
That helped tremendously.
Yeah.
See,
Working
having
in
a
the
different life
restaurant
experience
industry
makes a
is-
big difference.
Tell him about what your background is.
Yeah, so I ran restaurants. Well, I was in the restaurant industry for 23 years.
Yeah.
And I was general manager for, gosh.
Which ones?
So Palomino at the Crescent Hotel,
Yeah.
I ran
Oh,
that
yeah,
for
yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
And then I jumped over to Bob's Steak and Chop House at the Omni. I ran
Yeah.
that for 7 years. So, yeah.
Y'all have probably crossed paths if you were in any of those restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew Bob's chopping steak on Lemon.
Okay. Yeah, that's the original.
Yeah. And the little girl that owned it was
Jessica.
yeah.
Yeah. Now Bob owns it again.
He bought it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
He bought it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob
Hunter
is still alive.
Bob Sample? Oh, yeah.
Oh.
He's
No,
not that.
Jessica's
He's
up-
not that
Why
old.
did I think that
Jessica's-
Bob passed away? Maybe it was that Bob.
Bill Lennox passed
Oh,
away.
Bill. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So Bob is actually opening.
We need to get Bob on the podcast.
I probably can.
You know, back in the day, it used to be Bob and Dell's,
Yes.
Yeah.
and Dell
He's
left.
selling
and
securities now.
He
or something,
did.
Isn't he?
Well, I'll tell. Well, maybe, but no, probably not. So Dell then went and opened Del Frisco's.
Right.
And Bob
Got a divorce, sold
kept.
that, built Three Forks.
Yep.
That's where I worked after law school while studying for the bar exam. And then he sold that, built the Silver Foxes, sold that, built Texas in Richardson, which is an awesome restaurant. And then
He's still
and
he's
still
running
there,
that,
and his kids are running that, and he goes in, and that's the one he has.
I've
there
heard
for
him
his kids.
advertise for something. Not even. It was. I don't know what it was. It was some kind of a financial thing.
I haven't
Just
heard
recently. I mean, his voice is very distinctive. You know.
About that. Oh yeah.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
he sounds like
Dale
he's all
Wamstad.
clogged up. You know. Yeah.
Yep.
Dale Wamstad.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He's a very, very interesting fellow.
Yeah. God, he must be in his.
He's,
Oh, he's
80s
up
by now.
there.
high 80s or
Yeah.
early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to be.
But he still gets around that restaurant.
Yeah.
The Texas. Where is it in Richardson?
Right
Jupiter
off the-
and 121.
Yeah, it's
Jupiter
right
and
off
George
the
Bush.
Okay.
Right there. And it's next to the Silver Fox that's there. I think he owns that whole quadrant and section.
Yeah.
He's
Probably
a very,
does.
very well-off gentleman.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I know where that is.
They're opening a new Bob's. You know that?
Yes. I have heard about that.
Out here in McKinney.
In fact, a guy that works out with me once a week in this room, I think, is the one designing parts of the restaurant.
Yeah. So that's a tough.
I want to hear about your combat experience because I know you had some. Because I remember you telling us some stories. I remember you complaining about some crazy ass helicopter pilots.
Was it like back to school? No, one scene.
What scene was that?
Oh, I don't know the comedian, but with Roddy
Oh,
Dangerfield.
yeah, right. Yeah, but imagine that in actual combat. It's kind of like the the Sam Kinison scene.
Yeah.
From Back to School.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's too much of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wimp to go in and do this. Yeah, that's right. I like the way that you think. Really great professor. Really seems to care about what I have no idea.
But I'm not really. So many of y'all, and I notice it when y'all come through there. There's so many much more talented than I am, and better lawyers, better advocates. They're just better. I can tell. The reason why I like doing what I'm doing is because one, I was such a shitty law student. I know what a shitty law student ought to know. Never told. That's one reason. And the other is it's just kind of paying back. When I first found out about lawyers, I didn't even know about lawyers. In Oak Cliff, nobody knew any lawyers. And I finally needed one on my junior year in college on Easter vacation. And the only lawyer anybody knew was Phil Burleson. And he went to Sunset High, and he went to high school with the older brother of my best friend. He and I were on the track team together down in Texas for a while. So when I got in trouble, they called him, and I got 4 tickets that night, and thrown in jail, and so it was for. My mom had a push button Lancer, which was a little slant 6 little compact car. She didn't drive it over 50 miles an hour. So when I was home for Easter, I thought needed to blow out the carbon. You need to get it going a little bit.
Dan, just come on back.
Yeah, come on, Daniel. So, I was out on Hampton Road, and I was driving along as fast as I could make that thing go. There's nobody out there then. And I ran the stop sign at 67 in Hampton. It was just two-lane roads back then. And there was a police officer behind me. He hit the lights. And so I went down to Redbird Lane, made the left. And I just said, I don't know. I don't want to stop. So I just kept going. Got over the top
How
of
old
the
were you
hill.
at this time?
I was a junior in college.
This is before you decided to go to law school then?
No,
All right.
I'd already thought about the 90-hour program.
Yeah.
Doing the 90-hour program. It was that semester. I was geared to do it if I set up to do it. So I turned out my lights, went over the top of the hill, turned off my lights, went down a rugged drive and pulled off. Hid. And so I avoided them. They were all around looking for me. And like a dummy, I went and waited for them to find me. And dumb. I started feeling guilty. They didn't never come. I could have been home. And so I ended up with 4 tickets: evading arrest, running the stop sign, driving with my lights out, and I forgot what the fourth one was. They were all Class C's. They were
Speeding?
tickets. Yeah, speeding. That was it. And they were all Class C's tickets. And I just went to jail.
Evading was a Class C at the time?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And what happened was when they finally found me, I got out of the car and said, "Hey guys, I'm sorry. I just don't know why I did it." And then as I was talking, they came up and knocked the shit out of me and threw me on the ground. I got pissed. So I didn't say anything then, but the next morning I filed a complaint with the FBI on them. So, so that wasn't good. So anyway, I go back to.
I don't know. I might kind of. I don't know. Is it a good thing that they did that to you or not? In retrospect, what do you think?
In retrospect, it didn't matter. It was neither way. It didn't really matter either way. Because what happened was I got back to the reason why I didn't want to stop is I'd had a bad week. I got 7 tickets that week. I got 3 more down in Austin, all in my car, not on my motorcycle. I had a deal back then. I just didn't. I felt that it would just, if you get a ticket on a motorcycle, then you shouldn't be on a motorcycle. I'm not ever going to get a ticket on a motorcycle, and I never did. And I had a lot of fun one night on that too, avoiding them. running from on a motorcycle. But anyway, it was a bad week, so that's why I was hiding out. And then I changed my mind. And anyway, so I have these 4 tickets. And Phil Burtison's firm got me out. I didn't know what was going on. I just know they got me out of jail. Well, what it was Burtison, Pate, Gibson, and Mills, I think it was. This is the firm. What it was is they had obviously the guy that got me out was a law student who was clerking for him, who knew how to go to the jail and see the bondsman and bond me out. It was at the old jail at City Hall, on Main Street.
Could they do attorney bonds at that time?
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure that's what it was. I don't know. But anyway, he gets me out, and then I have to come back for, a hearing. And I come back, and that same young attorney was there. And we're in there. All 4 tickets are in front of Judge Chamberlain, who was a city attorney at the time. And the young attorney ends up calling Burtison. I finally meet Phil Burtison. He comes over and talks to a few people, and he comes over and says, "Look, Mike, I think I can get these tickets. I might be able to handle these things. The officer misspelled April. He spelled it with a B. I think I can get him thrown out."
What?
No.
God, if it's only that easy, that doesn't fly anymore, does it?
But they're a little upset that you filed a complaint against them with the FBI. So you might ask, forget about it. I'll withdraw it. He said, "Okay, we get that." So anyway, I was like, wow, what'd that masked man just do? And I was really curious about it. I said, "No, I think I will go ahead and go to law school. I want to figure out how he did that." Now I know how he did it, but Phil at the time, it was big time. It was a big time lawyer. Phil he was a more of an appellate lawyer. He'd worked in the DA's office as an appellate lawyer, and then he represented Jack Ruby on his appeal.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's where he got famous. And everybody knew Phil. He worked harder than anybody. And he was very, very quiet guy, but he was the man. And he was like you, he was very entrepreneurial. He was just a dynamo. And what he had done, I didn't know. I learned later. See, this is in spring of 66. I ended up not getting to go to Europe. I was supposed to go to Europe, work for the summer in Germany. I had to pay attorney's fees and other things. So I've never been to Europe.
You remember how much that cost you?
No.
You still haven't been to Europe?
Never been to Europe.
I
I've been to the Far East many times.
Certain places
50, 60 times.
certain places right now you don't want to even go to, but
Never been to Europe. But anyway, Phil Burtison, he was the only lawyer anybody knew, Cliff. And he was, everybody knew he went to Sunset. He was a neat guy. Didn't realize, what a big time guy was. Well, a few years later, in 71, when I get out of the service and come back, I spend my first 9 months drinking up my combat pay. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to practice law. I was bored, had a bad attitude. And finally I said, all right, I'll go out and put some resumes. So I went to Burtison's office, and he would have hired me. But he said, you ought to get a little practice, you ought to go to the DA's office. I went to somebody else. Go to the DA's office. I went to check some firms. They all kind of said, I don't want to be a criminal defense. I don't want to be a prosecutor. I don't want to work for the government. But they all said, you get a little practice. Get a little. And Phil, his wife was the older sister of my little brother in the fraternity, Alan Clements. And Alan's the one that suggested that I go talk to Phil. And I went ahead and interviewed with him. That was like in October. And then I just said, screw it, I'm not going to follow up on this. So I didn't do anything else for the next, 6 months. Oh, he asked he said, whenever we interview, we always, this is something you would probably, this shows you how innovative he was. He says, we always have prospective lawyers interviewed by a sociologist and a psychiatrist. I said, really? He said, yeah. Are you willing to do that? And I said, yeah, what the hell? As long as I can see the results, I'm kind of curious myself. So I'd only been back from overseas, at that time it was about 5 months. And I was straight back. I was straight back from being literally a god to back to mundane civilian life. It was a very abrupt. So I just wanted to see, what they would say about me. I was normal, turned out. But my feelings were took that Minnesota, Minneapolis, whatever it is, test, to find out what your personality was like, what you're most like, what you liked, what you didn't like. And I ended up just going back to my cave and, having fun with what I was doing, drinking up combat pay, didn't want a job, didn't like civilians. And then in April, I got hired. I got offered a job by a former Marine, and it was in the appellate section. And I rationalized it, that I would get paid to learn how to read and write. The guy was Westmore. He was a really good guy. And he hired me, and he says, look, I just saw your resume. Been sitting there 6 months. I prefer to hire, veterans, preferably Marines, combat. You fit all three if you want the job. It's a terrible job. Nobody likes it. The appellate section, we pay $700 a month, $100 more than prosecutors. They got $600 back then because nobody wants to do it. But if you want the job, you can have it. And so that's how I ended up in the DA's office, and I couldn't stand the appellate section. After 6 months, I went up to see Mr. Wade and told him to fire me or transfer me. When they hired you, they would say you could not switch from appellate to trial because they knew everybody would want to do that. But they let me do it. And then 6 months later, I just couldn't take it. I just didn't like working for the government. So I quit. And Phil was going to hire me. And I decided I wanted to go out on my own because, believe it or not, decisions that you make, you really think them through. Mike Gibson had been in the appellate section in the DA's office. He's a good friend of mine. And Mike had gone to work for Phil Burleson. While Mike was over there, he fixed me up with one of the secretaries, and I was dating a secretary over there. And so when it came time to get hired by Phil, I said, I don't get my meat where I get my bread. I'm not doing it.
Very wise.
So that's the reason I didn't go to work for him. So what happened is I decided I'd go to work on my own, and I'd office with somebody that did civil work so I could learn how to do civil, and then I could do their criminal for them, teach them how to do criminal. Well, it turned out, really nice guy, Lynn Estes, and he was in the same building as Phil Burleson, his firm. We were on the third floor, and they were up on 21. And back then, that firm, Burleson, was the only really organized criminal defense firm. It was the same as it is now. That they really have to, get their own, shoot their own to get, to eat. They're not real partners. You know what I mean? They share expenses and all that. Mm-hmm. But it was the closest thing to a criminal firm in Dallas. And Phil said, well, that's great. Come on. If you ever need any help on anything, come on up. And I just remember so many times I'd go up there. He had 2 floors of library books. Books. He had a legal library up there, which is, nobody had that. And here's the Phil Burleson. If I had a case, an evading case or any issue, he'd be in there pulling out these books, looking stuff up, and I'm going, this is Phil Burleson doing this. I cannot believe it. He was paying it backward. They're paying it forward, you know? And I just remember that from Phil. And you see that with a lot of criminal defense lawyers down at the courthouse because we all kind of help each other. So it's not unusual to want to, you know, I got the best job, you know, if you don't have to worry about getting paid. I got the best job in Dallas, really, working with the law students. It's fun. And everybody would like to have my job because at the courthouse, they all like to do that. And we do help each other all the time. The reason why we help each other is because in the criminal, you've probably seen this. I don't know. I guess you haven't since you're able to be so successful in the way that you're handling your divorce practice. But, you know, civil lawyers have a different code of ethics than criminal defense lawyers do. Criminal law, or all criminal, anybody that practices criminal law, because in criminal law, when you say you're going to go to trial, you're going to trial. You really do try a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You don't bluff. And you do go to trial a lot. And you go to trial with the same people. And 10 years from now, you might be trying a case today as a prosecutor, but 10 years from now, you may be doing it as a defense counsel. And the guy that you're trying it against may now be a prosecutor, or he may be the judge. And it's like musical chairs down there. You're going to see each other again.
Yep.
A lot. So the only thing you have that's worth anything down there is your reputation for being honest.
It's similar in our area of practice.
It's very similar.
I mean,
See, but you
hope.
set yourself out differently. See, because you have that reputation. See, civil trial lawyers, they don't. Why? They're not going to see those lawyers again. I'll hide the discovery on him. I'll lie about this. I mean, they just have a different.
Yeah,
It's not that
we don't
they're
do any
bad
of that
people.
stuff.
It's just that they don't have to see them again. So they have a different set of ethics than criminal defense lawyers.
We have a naughty list and a nice list.
Yeah.
And the nice list are people like that, and we know exactly who they are.
if you're dealing
and
with
then
a really
there's the
good
naughty
lawyer-
list of it's just a no.
And if you have a good lawyer on the other side, it just gets done better for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it just really does. If you have good lawyer on both sides, but
Well, there's a thing called, I call it hunter, or actually this is another R-John thing, was hunter versus farmer. Hunters, in our area of law, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So every client, they kill, strip to the bone, and leave for dead.
yeah,
We're farmer attorneys. Farmers grow, nurture, and multiply.
yeah.
We have to get paid for what it is that we do, but our goal from the moment that we take a case is solve the case in as healthy of a way as we can so that we can move on to the next one. In the almost 17 years that the Palmer Law Group has been in existence, we have not been caught up once. We've never had a time to where it's, what work are we going to have to do tomorrow? Now, we've had occasionally a paralegal going, I don't need any work, and we just need to assign him something, or go, hey, no, you actually do. What about this, and oh, God, okay, I'm actually really busy. You know, we've had a little need to manage you a little bit, but there's never been how are we going to make money tomorrow? We have trends up and down and things to where we'll have a meeting about it and go this, and she's panicked a couple more times. She's been here, in 2 years, and part of it I'm going, hey,
so I keep
trust
track of
me,
all that.
because we had a lull like
It's good that she's got you.
for about 10 days, we had a
got
lull
you.
of, hey, what happened? We're not getting a lot of input. We had this huge January, and then the beginning of February is what the heck happened?
It was it was middle of February and March.
Yeah.
We had a big drought.
And I was going, don't worry. I promise I've seen this.
Oh,
a dozen
you were
times."
worrying too
I
at
was
a
a
minute.
little bit, but in the back of my mind, I was still, don't. And of course, then we follow that up with oh
But
my
I
God, you got to
figured
be
out-
kidding.
I figured out what our problem was.
What was it?
We were marketing with a company called Geo-Targeting. And so their whole thing is they target people when they're on Facebook. So if they're on zip codes, so
Yeah.
the whole zip code range. And when someone's in that area and they're on Facebook, ads and stuff about our firm pop up. Well, when we first started the marketing with them, I noticed a huge increase in our intake. Our phones were ringing off the hook or getting all this business. Then all of a sudden we started dipping. And so I went on there and started talking to them. I was like, hey, I got a question. I'm kind of concerned because when we first started and we were lots of business, all of a sudden it's taken this huge dip. Do you guys change the zip codes? Do you change the demographic? Blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, no, we don't do that unless you tell us. So I sat there with them one day and spent over an hour adjusting everything. Well, all of a sudden our phone started ringing again.
How did it slip? What happened?
We just did not. When we put this program into place, I didn't know that they didn't change it themselves. I thought they automatically.
Well, sometimes you
changed
overfish an area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going on. We're just hitting the same stuff, and you're like, okay, we need to go out Frisco. We need to go more this
Okay, yeah,
direction.
But we don't do a lot of advertising for the amount of,
Yeah.
and for the amount of advertising
And I'm against,
versus the amount of business that
I'm
we do.
personally against print ads. I don't think they're effective.
Yeah.
I only do print ads to get credibility in the community and with the judges, other attorneys, and to get associate attorneys.
I mean,
to
they're
think
nice
that
to put on a table
and-
when you have an in-person consultation to go, oh yeah, we're on the front cover
Yeah.
of this. But
How
other
many
than
DR
that-
lawyers are there in Collin County? I'm just thinking about
I don't know.
election season. You guys must get hit up.
Oh yeah.
I was able to hide behind
Oh,
clinic.
I can't donate. I'm in the clinic.
Yeah. and then Nick Cariotis, good friend of mine. Nick was a Marine, and Nick decided that he wanted to run for the bench, and there's no chance in hell he was going to get it. He thought he was going to get appointed to the bench when Schwilly stood down, but they gave it to Dan White instead. So he wanted to run, and I said, Nick, you're not gonna, and he said, no, I just want to. I said, all right, Nick, if you do it, I'll break the rule. I'll support you, but it's not going to go anywhere. So that's when I started having to, $500. It's, you have to start paying people. If you pay one, the others find out about it. And,
I probably get hit for about 20 grand per.
yeah, so
election
that's
season.
what I was wondering. See, because
That's about what it is.
you've got to be, you've got to.
Well, and see, the thing, especially in Collin County,
Yeah.
there's 3 family law only benches. And if the family law exclusive firms don't support those benches, then what? So like the last season we did $2,500 per those benches.
No, I understand it
And
completely.
then
I
a
understand.
1,000 per bench. And then a couple of times, like the judges called me on my cell phone and asked. And if they ask, I usually give them a little bit more. Just
Yeah,
because I
you just
can't. I
have
have a
to.
hard time telling them.
Oh no, you got to do
You
it.
know, and plus the thing, I really like the Collin County judiciary. All of them, every single one, no exception. I really, really like them because they're consistent.
Yeah, right.
They're very
predictable,
consistent and very predictable, and we know the kind of little bit of distinctions among the judges, and and when I do donate to a judge, I do not want favoritism. The most that I would ever want is grant me an agreed continuance without messing with me, something like that. If I can get the other side to agree, don't make me have to jump through a bunch of hoops for that. That's probably the only real, or just. Don't take forever ruling on the cases.
Yeah.
But I don't want, if I got bad facts and I don't present the case to them, I don't want them particularly ruling in my favor. I'm a good enough attorney. I don't need that. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want that. I want them to be honest because I want to live in a country and in a county that is completely honest and things work the way that they're supposed to do. That's what I want. I want just honest people in there. And I think very highly of everybody that's there, and they.
Well, they finally grew Collin County. I mean, it seemed like the judicial system, the whole, the court system, for years, Collin County was so penny wise. They just didn't want to grow, even though they should have a long time ago. And then when they finally did it, they just like doubled.
Well,
they had to.
I came around right around the time where that was happening. I did in the criminal courts. I did it before Jay Bender was on the bench, and they were still in that building in downtown McKinney.
Yeah.
I did a few cases in there, like early on, like in one of my first years. But for the most part, they've all been in the new courthouse. I met Piper McCraw, who's a family law judge. I met her. I met her and Jay Bender, I think, maybe at the same time. I think they were maybe co-prosecutors.
Yeah, it grew. They needed to.
Yeah.
They just held it back. And
They're almost out of space in that big building.
already?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
It's
a neat courthouse.
They're going to need a court a year added, is what it sounds like they're talking about.
I mean, just for Frisco alone, the way that cancer's grown, it's amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing the right thing over there. They're actually building a statue of that city manager before he dies because he really is amazing. Really, that guy, he thought that through way back when there were like 5,000 people in Frisco, and that wasn't that long ago, like 1990. I mean, it was nothing.
No kidding.
Preston Road was a 2-lane road out there.
My dad was a contractor, and we worked on the Hooters out there in 1997.
Yep.
And I was like, why are they building a restaurant here in the middle of nothing?
You know where Mariano's is out there?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when Mariano went out there, he leapfrogged everybody. I mean, he's a really interesting. He was my first client.
Really?
Yeah. He was. See, when I first decided to come back and do something, my roommate was in basic school with me, and we were in the Marine Corps together. We got out at the same time, and he had flunked out of SMU before he joined the Marine Corps, and he had such a good time as an undergrad. He flunked out. He was in the band, and he was a really interesting guy. He ended up going to boot camp and San Diego, and he was so smart they let him go to OCS, which is really unusual. Back then, usually you have to spend 4 years on active duty before they'll let you go as an enlisted guy to OCS. But they say so. He was OCS with us. He's in my platoon at basic school. We all went on active duty the same time. We all got off active duty the same time. We all got out in June of 71. They let us out 2 months early involuntarily off active duty because they were shrinking the Marine Corps. So, he looked me up because he needed somebody to be a roommate in Dallas. I was in Denver at the time visiting relatives, and he caught up with me and said, I need a roommate. I'm going back to Dallas. And I said, well, I can live with you. I can't live with any other Americans. So, yeah, I'll do it. So we lived on the aptly named Mayhem Road. We got an apartment there, and he had a syllabus there. I picked it up in January. I looked at it. They had some classes there called entrepreneurship. I said, entrepreneurship? It was the whole catalog of all the classes. All the classes that in SMU in general. I said, that's interesting, because I'm fascinated with entrepreneurs because my family's full of them. They're Greeks. It skipped my it skipped me. I'm not. But, my father, my stepfather was a real businessman. All my aunts and uncles,
I actually think you are an entrepreneur. You're just missing one ingredient.
I don't care about money.
That.
I don't care about it, and it's bad. I want to spend my last nickel just as I drop dead, but I just don't know when that is. And that's not what my family was like. They grew up in the
Mike, the way you look, you could have another 60 years on you.
That's what I was thinking. Jeez.
Mike, don't put it back, because lifespans now.
I know.
100's easy. 120's on the table with how medicine and everything else is, and I'm planning on 140.
But anyway, I took this entrepreneur.
All mindset.
I went over there to the business school, and they just started this. It was at the Caruth Institute of Owner Managed Business. And I walked into him and I said, "Hey, I'm kind of interested in auditing this class of yours." He said, "I don't need to take it for credit because I don't need another damn degree. I got a degree I don't like, and I don't need another one. I just would like to take." And they were teaching 3 classes. It was the same class, and they found out I was a lawyer. You're a lawyer? I said, yeah, but that's not. Don't worry about that.
Don't tell people that.
And they said, "Yeah, well, why don't you work here? Why don't you work here as a volunteer?" So I went to work on the staff at the Caruth Institute, volunteered, and I did that for 2 years, and then I was working I took the job in the DA's office in April. So in the daytime I was prosecutor. At night I was working with business, and it was really cool because when you're working with small business people, they're go-getters, You give them an idea and they'll go with it. And Mariano was one of he'd started the restaurant in May of '71. So this was a year later, and they taught the same class how to start your own business is what it was, and it was really cool the way we did it. And same class for undergrads that they did for masters, and for people that would want to take it aged 8 to 80. I mean, for just civilians coming, how to start your own business. And we started several of them. It was pretty cool.
Cool.
And but Mariano was my first client. And
he was
he had
working
already
on
started. He'd already had his restaurant going, and he just took the class because he was interested in and he became, really a success story because he was so entrepreneurial. And when he got that first restaurant, it was way out in on 5500 Greenville Avenue, way out there in Old Town. Back, in '71, that was, what are you doing moving way out there for a Mexican restaurant? Well, they just started, they just built all those single apartments out there. Sperm Village, I call it. And he figured it was a swinging singles place, and he was going to open up a Mexican restaurant that was not a family-style restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, it was all family-style.
Yeah.
His mother was a Cuellar. She was, the Cuellar, Mama Cuellar started El Chico. So he was,
wow.
Oh,
yeah.
wow,
So his
okay.
mama was a Cuellar, and his dad, he and his dad was a waiter there, and they married, and then they went out and did their own little family style.
But is Mariano a Hispanic name or an Italian
No,
name?
I always thought it was Italian too. It's
I thought it was
Mariano
Italian.
Martinez. His father's name was
Oh, that's
Mariano.
his first name.
Mariano Martinez Sr. He was born in Mexico, and then Mariano Jr. Just Mariano. He was born in Dallas and went to Woodrow, dropped out as a sophomore, like many entrepreneurs do. A lot of them.
Part of me wishes I would have. I think
But
I might
he-
have been richer.
But he had he had the idea of a restaurant for singles on Greenville Avenue, way out. Then 20 years later, he gets the idea of building the Hacienda Ranch. And the way he did that was he got 10 friends of his who were all in the restaurant business to invest in the land. And
Brilliant.
Then they built the restaurant, and they became the managers. That company became the management company for the restaurant, and that was and when he did it, what he had across the street was double wides with.
There was nothing out there.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. They had very, very, very well practiced masseuses and massage therapists and double wide trailers
So there
right
was
across
something.
the street.
There was something going
Right
on out
across
there.
the street. Mostly Korean owned. I mean, that's about all they had. out
There was
there.
action.
That's all they had. That road was 2 lane.
Oh yeah.
And now it's God, you can't even, it's right in the middle of town now. And it's not town, it's
That's a prime location.
yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah. It's just
And it's
amazing.
super congested.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you could eat at a different restaurant in Frisco
Oh yeah. No
for
kidding.
365
But that
days
guy,
and
he
wouldn't
deserved a
repeat one.
statue.
Yeah.
I don't know what his name is, but he's still there.
They need to put it up now so that they
Well,
can
they
tear
are.
it down in about 10 or 20 years.
For the space.
No, for politics, because I'm sure he's.
Yeah,
Put a
something,
Who knows
something
what?
against
the
him.
city manager guy, and he'd been other places before he went out there. Little tiny 5,000 people, and he saw it the way he saw
brilliant.
Frisco, and he was way ahead of his time. He wanted to have it community, small neighborhood school system, not like Plano, and he planned for 6 high schools, for crying out loud, spread out. It's going to grow to 6. Shoot, they're up to about 12 now, I think,
yeah.
aren't they?
It's
It
a
just
lot.
keeps growing.
packed.
Just keeps
crazy.
growing. It's just amazing what he did.
So, where do you get most of your business from?
I've quit taking clients.
You don't take clients anymore?
I quit. I had my last one in January, yeah.
Really? So
Yeah.
you're just doing the clinic?
Just the clinic.
So
Well,
you're-
I'm doing Marine Corps stuff, a lot of
Marine
it.
Corps stuff? Okay.
A lot of it. Yeah, a lot of Marine Corps stuff.
Okay, so we
But-
can't refer you clients anymore.
No. But, we can always find a lawyer for them.
Well,
but
we know a lot of people.
Yeah,
We can
yeah,
call you
yeah.
for
Has your last case run its course?
Yes.
How did that feel?
It felt good because, the reason why I did it is I'm a half a beat off. As you get older, you can't be half a beat off if you're trying cases. You got to be.
You got to be 100% in the
You got
moment.
to object immediately. A half a second is a lifetime if you're trying. So I don't want to be like that. And because I struggle with names every now and then. It takes a while, but I'll get them.
Well, crap. 'Cause I've been
Cases.
struggling with names.
I know. I know. But
When I was in 5th grade, I asked someone, "What's Greg's name?" The answer was Greg.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do that a lot. I start looking for where's my phone? I can't find my phone. Call me, and it's right here in this pocket.
But everybody does that, so
I know.
those two don't count.
Yeah.
It does to me. It does to me.
He loses his wedding ring all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Have you found it yet? I know
I'm wearing it right now.
Yeah.
He lost it last week.
See, that's the only thing I'm afraid of. That's the nice thing about getting really old. I've learned a lot of things about old people. One of the things I've learned is the reason why we interrupt everybody. You know why? We're going to forget. In 5 seconds, we're going to forget that thought. So that's why old people interrupt.
Wait, what'd you say?
Yes. Yeah. So I forgot. What were you asking? So the other thing is you get real impatient because I don't want to waste my time.
You don't have a lot of time left. Yeah,
That's right. I only got so many minutes left. I don't know how many, but I'm not wasting it listening to this or going to that. So that's why they get impatient.
Well, I'm 48 and a half. I'll be 49 in July. I'm like that already.
Well, it's the only fear we have really is Alzheimer's. That's what lawyers.
I want
fear
to
more
buy
than
him
anything.
and send him that book. Make sure I have your mailing address before
Take
you leave.
fish oil. Take
I do. Hey,
vitamin B, vitamin D.
I got them all.
Mike,
Yeah.
you seem sharp to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I
think you
have-
have anything to worry about.
Here's what I take.
Take ginkgo.
No, I don't take that one.
You should take
And did we
that
send
one.
that book to Lanny too? To Helen?
Yes.
I hope so.
I found a new one. You'll like
I
this.
did it through Amazon.
Is it Dexatrin?
No, that's. Well, you know what? I got off.
Take-
That's an old favorite.
I got off of that one, man. I
What
tell you
about
what.
lion's mane mushrooms?
Summer
Here's-
just started me taking that.
That's
Here's
good.
the latest.
Mike, this stuff.
What is that?
Frankincense.
Take that one with you. 8 drops of that in a glass of water 3 times a day.
But not in
It'll-
plastic.
Not in so you need ceramic or glass,
What does
or
it
just do.
Oh, just taste better. Water tastes better.
No,
It's not because it'll etch. It'll react with plastic.
Let me show you this.
My husband's probably like, don't show her any more pills.
Here we go. Okay. Now I've been doing that. My son put me on those. So I take 2 of those a day. Get them at Sam's. The big ones,
Yeah.
That's the omega-3s, okay?
Oh, okay.
I just started taking, this is really bad. Okay. That's glucosium, chondroitin,
Chondroitin?
chondroitin, glucosamine, chondroitin with MSM. They have different stuff. My wife started taking that 20 years ago. It's for your cartilage in your knees, okay? So I started that one. Fiber tablets, well, you know why you take those. Got to have them too. I just started taking krill oil, which I don't need because I'm taking those. But
No. Krill oil is
but it doesn't
actually
hurt
really,
you.
No.
If you take
it doesn't hurt.
some of these, it doesn't hurt. Okay, now you were asking about
turmeric.
There's-
Do you take turmeric?
Yes,
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 turmeric's
I do
really
that.
good.
You're doing
vitamin
zinc.
E.
You're taking zinc.
Good.
That's
zinc.
good.
Now here's the new one.
You got a pretty good regimen.
Here's the new one.
Good ones.
Have you seen that one yet? Vitamin K2, MK7?
She takes it.
I take vitamin D with vitamin K.
No, vitamin D3.
Yeah, I take that one too.
You know what D3 is?
Nope.
It's kind of like the starter. It's like the if you have to start a charcoal pit, it's the starter. D3 starts the K2.
Oh.
And it also is the starter for the zinc and I can't ever pronounce
You
it.
should also
this crosaminium, that one, quercetin. Well, the D3,
CoQ10,
Yeah.
which is kind of like taking fish oil in
yeah,
a way.
yeah, I take a lot of that stuff. So, and then I do, I don't know
Evening
why I'm
primrose
taking
oil.
that one, but I
I don't
started
know why
taking.
you're taking evening primrose.
I don't know what it
Women
is.
usually take that. You know why we take it?
No,
It's for breastfeeding, right?
No. Whenever you get like knots in your breasts
oh,
that aren't like cancer, you take evening primrose.
Well, when I started, I think what happened is when I ordered this from Sam's, they sent me that too, is what I think happened. And I ordered it, I ordered it and they gave me like a double order, so now I've got it. But anyway, here's the thing about the K, you know about the K2, what it does, don't you?
A little bit.
K2, MK7, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's on YouTube.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration.
But it has been
You can't
not
trust
intended
the
to
Food Drug
treat or cure
Administration
any disease.
when it comes to
I've-
vitamins.
I saw it on YouTube, so it must be true.
Not a substitute
Must
for
be
actual
right.
dietitians.
So
Yes.
I was
Not medical
surfing.
advice.
I was surfing on YouTube. Usually on YouTube I just surf for
Have you subscribed to the Lawyer Dana podcast?
no. But what I do is I go Ukraine war today. I don't want to see last week's stuff. I want to see it today. It's fun watching it because you get to read through the propaganda. It's fun, but you get a good picture. So I'm surfing through, and I hit this. I don't know why I even stopped, but there's this doctor on there that starts talking about this K2 thing. And here's what he said.
Is it Berg?
Dr. Berg.
No, he had a.
You know who Dr. Berg is? I think his stuff's some of the best stuff
you
on there.
check
Bob,
him out,
I think it's
too.
Bob Berg.
This guy.
Right,
This
or
guy.
is
I
That's
think
not
he's
Bob.
Japanese. I think he's
Berg.
Japanese.
Oh, it's the Asian guy, the one that I was watching the other day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I've seen him too. This guy's Japanese. And what he was saying about K2 was that, and it became relevant because my wife's family has a history of heart problem. And what happens is, he says when women take calcium for their bones, right? And my wife's been taking them for years. Says what they've discovered is that calcium goes to their arteries, and it's real brittle in there, and so you'll get these little peaks in your arteries, and when they break off, that's what causes heart attacks, because those things. And what happens is you take that calcium, that's where it's going. D3 will send the calcium, or no wait, if you take K2, but it's got to be MK7. I don't know why, but it's got to be MK7, K2, MK7, and the D3, the igniter. It ensures that your calcium will go to your bones.
That makes
So-
sense.
Where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's true or not, except that my oldest son, is he was in the health industry. He ran a third-party administrator firm called Ameriflex for 15 years, and he's all up, and he's been a health nut ever since high school football. So he really watches his diet, watches everything. Most of that stuff I got from him. And I told my wife, of course, she doesn't. Anything I say is not believable. So,
Well, we know we have
I'm
wives
gonna
too.
write.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a website down. For you.
but I said, okay, have Bart look at it. So Bart looked at it, and he started taking it. So he looked it up, and he's very thorough. Real thorough. So, you want to see what it is? Is that what you want?
No, this here is a website. And so they sell supplements. They're actually very affordable. Lots of times they run a really good deal.
Yeah, Maricola.
And they have some of the best fish oil. Because on fish oil, you have to be very careful.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, you've got to make sure you're getting the highest quality of fish oil. Sometimes they use the really crappy fish. Yeah. So the fish oil I'm getting is caviar. It's caviar oil.
Oh.
So and literally, it's not bad in price. But
Caviar.
You gonna be okay?
Huh? Yeah.
Maricola.
Yeah.
Champagne witches and caviar dreams.
Maricola.
So, there's genetic testing out there and stuff like that. So I have it's called, what is it?
You getting old? You having a hard time recalling
I'm going
names?
to hit you.
You're not going to be trying cases then.
Oh, I'm not an attorney.
Again,
I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be an attorney.
No, yeah.
And then I decided
That's what
I love the restaurant industry, and I went that direction. So
Boy, that's so hard.
and
So
now she's
disciplined.
running,
now
the
I'm running
business side of a law firm.
which is
and
Boy,
it's-
running restaurants
great.
is just hard work, isn't it?
it is hard work.
And it never ends.
No, it
It's a
doesn't.
beat down. It's
Yep.
a real beat down.
It can be.
But now she actually gets to spend time with her family, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, if it's a family-owned restaurant, then it doesn't matter who steals because it stays in the family. But
I've never heard anyone make the best of it like that.
but once you get to start branching out, then you start losing
Well,
money.
so my whole goal in life was to be like a vice president of a company.
Yeah.
Why a vice president, not a president? I don't know why, but I wanted to be a
That's
vice
effectively what you are now. Not
mean-
technically, because you don't. So you know, a law firm, you can have somebody even running a lot of the aspect, managing clients, dealing with. You can have all that, but they cannot be an official officer of
Really?
the law firm.
Really?
It's apparently it breaks
Unless
an ethical
you're an
rule.
attorney.
So
Yeah.
we can call her the administrator, but we cannot call her like chief. Chief
Operating
any you
officer.
can't say anything officer or any director.
Well,
They have to be
that's good,
lawyers,
'cause
at
I've
least
never
in
seen 'em.
Texas.
You know, that's right. I've never seen them called that, anything other than that. You got
The-
managing partners or lawyers.
The American Law Firm Administrators Association, or however I'm butchering their name, thinks that is an incorrect ethics opinion in Texas, as do I. But I don't know, and we may see non-lawyer law firm ownership sometime soon. Hopefully not. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a really bad idea to do that, but we'll see.
But I think there's an awful lot of lawyers out there. Yeah, the thing, they're not as many as people think. You know why?
Because a lot don't actually practice law, and they're retired, and they
Like
go
everything
do something
else.
different.
Like everything else, women make up more students and more law students,
Oh yeah.
50% or more. When I went to law school, we had 35 out of 1,600
Oh wow!
women. When you have women that are making up, and they got a lot more law schools, but again, you have a lot more women are going to law school. They make great lawyers. They're great law students, great lawyers, but it doesn't matter, if they're superwoman. They still hit that biological clock, and many of them, they make that call, age of 30, and they're out of there. It's not as much as it used to. I think it's just changing now with this new generation. They don't want kids, but that alone has really kept the number of practicing lawyers below white rats. But now I think we got so many of us that there really are more lawyers than white rats, and that are practicing, because women have now, and law firms have now figured out ways to like every other thing in society, accommodate. I don't agree with it at all. I think that having a kid is, it's just part of life. You're going to do it, you're going to do it. You got a husband help you take care of the kids, but that's not the way they're doing with law firms now. And I think there are more women now that are staying and working with their kids. But what the really niche used to be for them is these really good lawyers. They want to be, have kids. They go out and then they just do contract work, and it was great. They do good work. They do really good work. But now, I really do think we're getting an awful lot of lawyers out there.
Well, there's more than 100,000 in Texas right now, right?
I think so.
And it is a good education, like my son. I'm not that good of a lawyer. I couldn't talk him out of law school. And, and then he decided he wanted to be a prosecutor after he spent summer with Tommy Pappas and Jimmy Whalen. He had so much fun down there with them. I said, oh, man, I don't want him doing that. And so then he wanted to try stuff, and he didn't have a personality at the time. But finally, I was able to keep him from practicing law. So when he got out, he didn't.
What does he do now?
Now he works for a company called Limeade over in Rockwall. He and a fraternity brother from undergraduate. The fraternity brother went to work for a bank in Kansas City, and Bart went to law school. And 3 years later, he gets out of law school, and this bank is looking for young professionals to try to integrate into the bank to make it more aggressive, make that bank more. It's UNB, the number 2 bank in Kansas City is what it was, and wanted to make it more competitive by having more aggressive people. So they had a training program, and they were hiring kids from really good schools, Ivy League schools, and putting them through this training program. They spent 2 weeks in this section of the bank. Did all that, and so they interviewed Bart, and I knew they were going to hire him because he went to WashU undergrad and then Tulane Law School, and I knew they'd hire him. And I said, look, just make sure that they let you take the bar just for insurance. So he took the Texas bar, and they did hire him, and he went into that banking. So he learned all there is about banking. And you may not believe this, but there's more to banking than a checking account. In fact, I don't think he even knows anything about checking accounts. The stuff he did there, I still don't understand what he was doing. But then he and that friend of his who'd been in that bank for three years, they ended up being specialists in medical plans for health plans. It's a product, a banking product, they call it. And they'd sell those to corporations, and the bank would, manage it, the funds. And they got hired away by a guy that ran a third-party administrating company outside of Philadelphia. They went up there and started running the company. Then they moved it down to Frisco, and Bart ran it for the last 15 years. He just after COVID, he got kind of tired, bored with it, because the company really can be run offline. And so he was becoming a house husband. And I guess he said, I needed to get another job. I don't want to be running the kids around everywhere. So he took the job out at Limeade, and that company is really fun because it actually makes something. That third party.
What do they make?
They do fabrication on marketing vehicles and projects. I guess the best example would be if a phone company like what's one of the phone companies? The GT.
AT&T.
AT&T. That's what I was thinking of. They're the first ones that did it. They hired they wanted a bunch of vans made out in their colors. They had lots of lights on it, and they'd go around town advertising around with these vans. Well, they get the vans and they trick them out. They have
they wrap them and everything.
Yeah, all that
Okay.
stuff. And I mean, they do stuff. They have stages. They build stages for marketing campaigns. And the guy's he's a very entrepreneurial guy. And in fact, their product was on the Today Show, I think, yesterday.
Cool.
He warned it. He advised us. I haven't looked at it yet. I haven't had a chance to look at what they do, but they take these projects on, and it's just amazing what they do. They're asked to do crazy stuff, like for Taylor Sheridan, some of his shows. Mm-hmm. They were asked to put a diamond pinky ring on the Tulsa King. They've got this
Oh, yeah.
that Derrick statue out there. Uh-huh. They were asked to make the ring, so they put the ring on there.
Cool.
In Yellowstone, they had a grand opening or something for Yellowstone in Fort Worth last year. They asked them to do all of the.
Can you come up to that mic?
Oh yeah, all the fake Yellowstone stuff. Like the gate. They do it on short notice.
Huh.
And it's crazy stuff that they do. I mean, he has a fleet of vehicles out there, buses, trucks, that they'll trick them out, send them to, if the people want to keep them. It's usually huge corporations have marketing campaigns, and they get their customers really word of mouth from marketing guys, that say, we're going to do this kind of campaign this time for Sprint, and we're going to be nationwide, and we'd like to we'll get these guys to do the vans. They had one was a, what do they call those double-decker buses?
Oh, yeah.
An English bus. Mm-hmm. And they had, it was for one of the big fashion companies. Like, it wasn't them, but it was like, what that purse company? Coach.
Yeah.
It wasn't Coach, but it was kind of like that.
Louis Vuitton, Gucci.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's just amazing what they'll do to these things. And they have these guys out there that they have to make these things, and then they have to get them there. And they found out one of their vehicles, they couldn't drive it in New York City because they got to have permits, and just all kinds of crazy stuff. But it's a fun job for him because it's something. It's an adamant object for a while. He's so long has been. They make a product, so he'll do that. I don't know. Someday he's probably going to start his own company up. I don't know what he's going to do. He's very thorough guy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is this your youngest or
Oldest?
Oldest.
Yeah.
So, Jen, did you want to ask Mike some questions about DWI or criminal practice?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
So I was recently told by a CPS worker that they don't really consider marijuana use anymore when it comes to taking away kids from a set of parents or something. What's the what are the courts' view marijuana like possession these days, given the climate?
They're
and what's
schizophrenic.
going on?
They're schizophrenic about it because you can, DWI, the definition, not having normal use of your mental or physical faculties by reason of the introduction of alcohol, a controlled substance, a drug, a dangerous drug, a combination of two or more of those substances, or any other substance into your body. That includes marijuana. So, yes, they don't arrest people for small amounts of marijuana often. And a lot of officers look the other way when people have a small amount. But if it's a DWI case, and we've got one right now, if it's a DWI case and they arrest you for DWI and the blood test shows you don't have any alcohol, they'll run a DWI on drugs, and they'll always test for marijuana, and you'll be charged and prosecuted for DWI.
How do they know when you consume the marijuana? Doesn't it
They
stay
don't.
in your system
No, wait. They'll know that because it becomes metabolite after about 24 hours. So when they run your blood, if it comes back metabolite of THC.
It's funny that we're talking about this while that police siren goes by.
Yeah. If it's a metabolite that's in your blood, that's been that means that the active ingredient in marijuana has been metabolized. It is not going to affect you. It's inert.
Okay.
So
and do
they'll
they
show
know that?
They'll show on a blood test. They'll show
Okay.
THC or whatever. They'll spell out the whole name, and then they'll have the whole name metabolite. Same thing with hard drugs. They'll have metabolites.
Okay.
Metabolites, but that doesn't stop you from being prosecuted. Believe me, we've got one right now. We have a motion to suppress set tomorrow. He has no alcohol. They screened him for drugs. He had no measurable amount of any drugs, but there were two drugs that it showed the presence of it. And this prosecutor still wants to go to trial. Well, we'll see, because in order to prove up the effect of marijuana, you better have an expert. They better have an expert to say that this quantity of marijuana in your blood, if it was in your blood, at the time you're operating the motor vehicle, would have had an effect on the normal use of your physical and mental faculties. And they're just now, that's why it's schizophrenic now, because now all these jurisdictions are having to deal with this issue about they're legalizing marijuana. Well, great. You legalize marijuana. What are you going to do about DWI?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's normal use.
Right.
So what it becomes, dealer's choice. If the police officer wants to take you in, he's going to take you in. He's going to charge you.
Well, wouldn't they have to kind of look at it like alcohol? You can only have a certain percentage
the only
in your
state that I
system.
know
blood.
of that it has that objective amount is Colorado.
Okay.
And it's 0.5 or 0.0. It's like it's either 5 or 0.5 or it's a 5 milliliters. I don't know what it is, but it's measurable. In Colorado, there's a presumptive, like we have on alcohol concentration. But that's
So they
the
have
only one.
like a measurable thing.
Yeah, in Colorado,
Okay.
But like not in Oklahoma.
not anyplace else. So
Wow.
how are they going to prove it? They're going to have an expert testify
You would think that they would.
And whatever that
think to do
expert
that.
happens to have their opinion, so the law's different for everybody
That's right.
depending on who
So
the
you get
expert
your own.
is.
It's a battle of whores. You buy your whore, we'll buy our whore. And right now we don't have one on our side. We used to have a really good forensic science. Wimbish. I mean, he was around when you guys were in the clinic. And Dr. Wimbish, I mean, he played it straight. He would look at the video. He wouldn't testify on a DWI case until he saw the video. And if he thought the person was intoxicated, he wasn't going to testify. But he, this is 20 years ago, he knew all this stuff. There is no synergistic effect. When it comes to drugs and alcohol, there's no synergistic effect. Now, everybody thinks there ought to be, but there isn't. And he says, and we've actually used him in a couple of cases a long time ago, where the person had, it wasn't heroin, it was the, what's the drug that people take? See, this is why I'm not trying, it's why I quit taking clients. What's the substitute for heroin? What's it called? Starts with an M.
Methadone.
That's it, methadone.
Methadone.
Okay, so had a client who had he was a Yankee, so he was a know-it-all, bad attitude, knew everything.
Not good in
But it
Texas
turned
court,
out he
either.
was right. He was right, but he just a prick, wasn't likable. And he had several medications showed up, and illegal medication was the marijuana. And Wimbish testified that all those medications, because he found out, and one of them was methadone, and he found out that, first of all, people take that for pain. Originally, it was a pain medication. It wasn't an anecdote.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. But he said, look, here's the thing about those medications. If it's a prescribed medication and they've been taking it for a long period of time, then it's purely therapeutic. I mean, your body does become accustomed to the drug, but it doesn't mean it hasn't done its job. It does its therapeutic job. The reason why every time we take a medication, you get a new medication that says don't drive, that's because the doctor wants you to test it out to see how it affects each individual. Before, because it may not be good. My mom died, and a lot of older people died because they keep changing meds on them, keep trying something new.
Yep.
And that's what happened. She had high blood pressure, and they were shuffling the meds around, and every 2 weeks trying something new, and she got caught in between and died. Heart froze up. But if you get a medication that takes care of whatever the malady is, the reason why you take the controlled substance is to be normal. That's why you're taking it.
Yep.
So yeah, it does affect you. It makes you normal, hopefully, but you got to argue that in front of a jury. George Miller III just did that last week. He said, we were talking about it yesterday. He says, yeah, you're taking to be normal. I said, that's exactly what I told him. Taking to be normal. And then the marijuana wasn't enough. And Wimby said, I saw the videotape, and I saw his medical records and saw he'd been taking this other stuff for many years. So those are therapeutic amounts that the blood test showed. Therefore, it didn't have an effect. It did not cause him to not have his normal use of mental and physical faculties. And the judge granted it was a motion to suppress. The judge granted it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We're going to have another one tomorrow just like that.
Okay, so let's talk about something risky.
But I will tell you, just because the question was about marijuana, that's where people are going to see a lot of DWIs now on marijuana. And the reason why you're going to is because it's good business for law enforcement. I mean, nobody likes a drunk, and it can be very dangerous out there. People, bad drivers, and it's such an easy offense to make if you're a police officer. Why, if you're a mature police officer who have a family and kids, why would you risk chasing down a Jamaican with a machine pistol who's a drug dealer when you can get a DWI, spend 2.5 hours, processing them, getting some coffee and everything else. And it's just easier.
Yeah.
And it's that incentive, that psychological incentive is always going to be there. And so, marijuana is going to be the new frontier on DWIs. It's not going away. So maybe they're not going to arrest you for it, but guess what? They don't arrest me for buying, Wild Turkey or Jack Daniels either. But if I drank too much of it and start driving, I will get a DWI. So that's what's going to happen.
All
right. So we have a criminal defense attorney here. Let's talk about something current event. You may or you don't have to, you can or not talk what
I may not know anything. Listen, I know a tiny bit.
What do you think about so the president of the United States just got indicted.
Trump?
Yeah. I think that okay. This is another luxury of being an older person.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't give a shit what anybody else thinks about me anymore. And believe it or not, when I was an immature college kid and decided to join the service, the Marine Corps, one of the considerations among many was I have to go if there's a war. I have to go. I can't avoid it because when I get back, I can bitch about my government as much as I want. And if I don't do it, I got no right to criticize it. So guess what? Here's payback. This country is, we've passed Central America. We're down to, I guess, Venezuela, Colombia now. That indictment yesterday is just our standing in the world in the last 3 years. We've lost our independence for energy production. We've can't be relied on by our allies. They did to the guys in post 9/11. They did the same thing. The same people did it too. It was Biden and the Democrats did the same thing to the veterans of post 9/11 as they did to us in Vietnam. They cut off. The thing about Vietnam was at least the withdrawal was very well planned and very well organized. I know a lot about that withdrawal. On the 29th of April of 1975, the general in charge of it is a very close friend of mine. He lives in Plano, and I'm kind of like his adjutant. And he just wrote his life story. I've known the story of the evacuation for a long, long time.
Could you ask him, and would you be so kind as to come back on the podcast that we could talk about that? Or do you think?
I don't think.
It's probably got to be
he is
all classified.
He's 95. No, it's not that. He's
Okay.
95. And
if we don't get it now, we'll never get it.
well, he's I watch out for him, and he is hard of hearing. He's very alert, very sharp, but he misses things from time to time because of his hearing, and it would take a long time to get it. What you'd want to do is probably
We have headphones that we can use.
I'll
and
get
turn it up.
I'll get you a copy of his book. Okay, you can read his book.
We've had a
and
lot of
then
people
you can
that write
decide
book- right.
if you want to bring because his the guy that wrote the book, Alan Mishes, is a great guy, and Alan, is trying to sell the book. I mean, he's not going to make a killing on it, but it's
Is
a
Alan
great story.
from around here?
Oh yeah, he lives up in.
Can
he
we
lives
get both of them?
You might, yeah. I'll ask Alan, but he wouldn't last
We'll take
half an hour maybe at the most. I mean, he really.
however long he wants to do it.
And you're not going to be able to get the story because that's not really the greatest story of his life anyway.
What is the greatest story of his life?
He was a second lieutenant at Incheon and at the Chosin Reservoir. And if you know anything about the Chosin Reservoir,
I know nothing about the Chosin Reservoir.
well, we got a monument that we've built. You ask what I'm doing now? I've been doing this for years. We have a 501c3 that I'm the managing trustee of. We've had it since 1990. Did it the whole time. I was working with y'all. Still doing it, and we raised the money. We put one Chosen Few monument at Quantico, and we did another one out at the cemetery, and it's out there now. We had it dedicated last summer, but the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir is one of the three most important battles in Marine Corps history. You have Bellewood, Iwo Jima, and the Chosin Reservoir. And he was a second lieutenant, platoon commander. He landed at Incheon with his platoon. He was always at the front. He joined the Marine Corps right after World War II. He joined the Navy actually in '45 to be a pilot, the Naval Cadet program, or not Naval Cadet, but to be an enlisted pilot. But the war ended, so he waited a little while. Then he joined the Marine Corps, and then he was enlisted till he went to OCS, 49. So he's a second lieutenant. They land at Incheon on the 15th of September of 1950, and it stops the North Koreans. The North Koreans are defeated. They take Seoul. The Marine Corps takes Seoul. His platoon is at the point the whole time, and then they pull the Marines out from Seoul, and MacArthur puts them around on the east side of Korea, way up north, and they land up there, and they're ordered to go to the Yalu River in the winter, and it's an epic story of survival. They fought 8 Chinese divisions. The odds were about 7 to 8 to 1. The temperature never got above 30 below for 2 weeks.
30 below?
Yeah.
How do you live for 10 minutes in 30 below?
They did it for 2 weeks. And at Port Chi-Coms, they had it even worse. So there were 120,000 Chi-Coms against the 1st Marine Division, which was about 15,000, about 15,000 Marines and about 5,000 Army infantry. The Army infantry were on the right flank, east of the Chosin Reservoir when they got hit. You know, you've always seen those things about the hordes, the Chinese hordes with the bugles, those human waves. That was it. That was where it happened.
Wow.
And they faced human wave attacks for probably about a week, every day, every night. In the daytime they didn't, because the Marine Air and Naval Air, kept them off the Marine Corps. But they fought their way back, and the whole goal of the Chinese, the People's Liberation Army, was People's Volunteer Army, I think they called it, was to annihilate the 1st Marine Division. If they could annihilate the 1st Marine Division, then the UN would pull out of Korea. That was the goal. They had already attacked, and the Eighth Army on the west side of the Korean Peninsula, and rolled them back from North Korea 283 miles retreat. Longest retreat in military American history was the retreat of the Eighth Army. They just got pummeled. Meanwhile, we got one division of Marines over here, and they're all alone. And so now they're going to, if they can get rid of them, UN will pull out. Well, it didn't work out for them. Not only did they come back, they brought all their equipment with them, all the Army's equipment with them. Most of their dead. They had to bury some up there. But all of their wounded, all their equipment, and they probably killed half of the 120,000. The Chinese will admit to 47,000 casualties. That's killed and wounded. Well, if you were wounded, you died because you froze.
Right.
They all froze. I mean, some of the things that happened are unbelievable. But the Chi-Coms.
Like what?
Well, whole units of Chi-Coms would be lined up on a road, and they'd freeze to death in their positions, their guns out. They just looked like
They just froze.
froze with their eyes open, their hands on their weapons.
Oh, wow.
They wore tennis shoes. The Marines weren't that well equipped for the winter, but they had tennis shoes. The Port Chi-Coms did, and the only food they had was what they brought with them from China. It's about
Not cold weather food.
70 pounds of rice, and that was it. And what happened is they blew out a bridge, very famous Funchal Pass, the Marine Corps had to come out. It's a single lane winding road, 70 miles. As they're coming down the mountain, they've gotten past the main part, the three main bases we had a Marine general named O.P. Smith who saved the Marine Corps. I mean, he basically disregarded orders from MacArthur's chief of staff, who happened to be the commanding officer of the 10th Corps, who insisted that the Marine Corps high-diddle it to the Yalu River, and O.P. Smith just didn't do it. And he would build up as he went. He said, there's no way I'm going to string out a division of Marines 70 miles in the winter. I'm not doing it. So he built up bases, 3 bases. And when the Chi-Coms hit, which we knew, we kept telling them, Chi-Coms were in the war, and MacArthur wouldn't listen. And but the Marine Corps knew they were coming. And when they hit, we were able to roll back, pick up the units as we go. Well, so we were all in one unit now. The Army guys over here, there were 3,000 of them. They were not prepared. They got sent up there. They were not trained for it. The Army did a terrible job with putting those poor guys up there. There were 3,000 of them, 3,500. By the time they got down, there was 400 left. They lost a bunch of them, all of them. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The Chi-Coms just, overran them. It's terrible. But anyway, they come back down. The one last thing that the Chi-Coms did was they blew a bridge over about a 3,000-foot chasm. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to get across that? Well, the way they got across it was they had one company of Marines come up. Marines would take the high ground. One company of Marines came up and took this the hill overlooking it. Took them 2 days to get up there in the middle of a snowstorm to wipe the Chi-Coms off the top of that ridge, and they held that thing open where they flew in and dropped treadway bridges, they call them. They're 8-foot sections of steel planking that Marine engineers put across that gap. It's about a 24-foot gap where they could bring all the vehicles across. So when they came back down off the thing, got to Hungnam, the harbor, they had 100,000. No, it was 90,000. I take it back. 90,000 North Korean citizens came out with the Marines. Refugees.
Oh, wow.
They brought out. And when we dedicated the thing in Quantico, back in 2017, we did it on 4th of May of 2017. Well, Moon had just been elected president. He came over for his first visit in July. And when he landed at Dover, he said, I want to go to Quantico first. So he goes to Quantico, and the reason why he goes is he lays a wreath at our memorial that we did. The memorial we built it here. General Carey was instrumental in the wording of it. Tells the whole story of the battle and of the design of it and everything. We have a sculptor named Mark Bird, who was a Marine Cobra pilot during Vietnam, which pretty big stretch. Cobra pilot artist, but he's really good. So he did that. He did the sculptures on it, and Moon came and he dedicated it. I mean, he laid a wreath. The reason why he laid a wreath was of those 90 or 100,000, I think it was 90,000 refugees that came out of there. 2 of them were his parents. He was born 2 years later.
Wow. I had a feeling.
Yeah. So that was the signature event of General Carey's career. But that is also why he was picked to command the evacuation of Saigon. Is because he was after he he stayed in Korea. He was there 189 days. He was wounded in, I think, late March of 51 and finally evacuated. And he became a pilot, a aviator. Flew every airplane in the Marine Corps. Flew, I think, 4,600 hours is what I had in his logbooks. I had to use his logbooks to help the Alan do his story because we couldn't get his records. Couldn't get his OQR, his SRB from
Why not?
they just wouldn't do it during COVID. They just said we got a skeleton crew and we don't do that.
Wow.
They just did stuff, records for deaths. You know, if somebody's
Wow.
dying, they look stuff up. Other than that, they wouldn't. So I used his logbooks.
So what's the name of the book about him?
It's The Flying Grunt.
The Flying Grunt.
He considers himself a grunt infantry officer. But he evacuated Saigon, and we did lose 4 Marines in that evacuation. 4 deaths. 2 of them were hit with a mortar. 2 enlisted guys. His name was McMahon, and the other one's name is Sawyer, I think. They were hit. Mortar hit the foxhole they were in right at the defense attaché office. You know, it just nothing you can do about that. And the other 2 were, they evacuated over about 6,000 people by helicopter in about 20 hours, 18 hours. It's still the largest helicopter evacuation in history. And then they brought out another 100,000 by boat.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a lot.
yeah, so it was. And the only other guys they lost 2 pilots in a 46. They were getting low on fuel. They asked to land to get fuel on one of the ships. They got waved off because it was full, and they were going to move some stuff around so they could land. And then they just dropped into the water. They lost the 2 pilots, but the crew members were safe. So they lost 4. It was unbelievable. I mean, the NVA were coming down the road. I mean, the general had fighters up there, Cobras up, he had everything up. I mean, it was almost a fight all the way out, and we only lost 4 Marines. And then you look at what Biden did, last year in Kandahar. I mean, it's pathetic.
He's been wrong on every single international.
It's pathetic. And to do what they did to you ask, I've watched this go on now I'm no fan of Yankees. I wouldn't want to have a drink with Trump because he's a Yankee, and Yankees know everything, and they're like Geraldo Rivera and some of those other Yankee guys. They always know it. They always know everything. But I tell you what, Trump was a damn good president, and I don't know if he'll get it again. I think having him run, we may end up going straight down the tubes for good, for sure, because I just think that the Democratic Party is they're commies. It's run by commies, and there's no way to do it any other way. They can say no, we're not. Yeah, they're commies. They're commies that are running the party. And
Who would you like to see run for the Republican ticket?
I would say, what's the governor's name in Florida?
DeSantis.
DeSantis and Trump. Ivanka. That would blow their minds. Not Donald, Ivanka. The daughter, that would be a hoot, wouldn't it?
That would.
I mean,
She's a little more left.
She's
than her
very left.
father is.
But she's very accomplished. I mean,
That's true.
Think about what he did. His kids don't drink
Yep.
or smoke.
Yep.
I mean, those are great kids he raised.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot more to him than you see. I mean, the guy, he's a strong guy.
He was well beloved until he decided to run for the ticket as a Republican.
Yeah. And I've watched the legal profession. It's just pathetic what I've seen since he ran. I mean, everything that they've done, and you see it at the courthouse, you see it everywhere. And now you see it, in New York. I mean, look, those aren't lawyers. What they did, that's just, those are mobs. They've turned this thing the lawyers and the judges,
You think they're going to handpick the jurors
oh yeah,
that they call for jury duty?
of course they will. Of course they will.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing I worry about the biggest.
See, here's
he
the
doesn't
thing
even. There's no way he's going to get a fair trial there.
Of course not. And the
They know exactly who they're going to seat on that jury. There
See,
won't be a single Republican on the panel.
the Democratic Party is evil. I mean, for them to let Hillary Clinton, she's the one that got the thing started, that Russian stuff. She
did
and her folks
the
did
same
it.
thing with that false dossier.
Yes, Hillary Clinton's people wrote it.
Yeah, and she was fined $8,000 for that.
Yeah.
as a campaign finance violation. But Donald Trump gets indicted for 34 counts of that.
And then
something, and the statute of limitations is passed.
And then they, the FBI and the Department of Justice. I mean, the Democratic Party has weaponized them. The press is, you see really intelligent people. And I was dealing with them this weekend. They're all a bunch of, hippies, old hippies. And all of the intelligentsia down in Austin, I mean, they just think that Biden's, you got to have Biden. Biden's doing a great thing. Why? Because these people, they want to sacrifice. This country is not a serious country. When the priority of the government is clean air, come on. I mean, it's just pathetic. We are not a serious country. And the rest of the world now sees it. That's been the good news about the Ukrainian war, I think, is the Europeans are on their own. They realize that they can't depend on us, except they can.
Well, we're giving them $100 billion.
Oh yeah, they can guilt us into.
You know how much money we give them?
I don't care how much.
Think of all. You see.
No, because
it's insane.
I'd rather see their graft take the money than our graft take the money, because any money that the Congress gets now, it goes to the unions, and it goes to pay off the friends of the Democrats. You talk about corrupt. We're corrupt. I don't mind if they take all my money and spend it on tanks over there, or even if they waste some of it on. At least the bottom line is they're going to get some ammo. And and the crazy thing is people don't understand that they're killing Russians. And they need to just keep killing them, because if they don't kill them now, we're gonna we won't do it. We'll fold from within. Now this country really, I think, will fold from within. But
that's been their plan for 50 years.
And I think they're going to, it's really funny. 55 years ago, my country was asking us for volunteers to go stop communism. And then when you volunteered, they actually trained me how to kill commies. And then they actually sent me to kill commies. And then I went back again to kill commies. Now the commies are running the country. It's just amazing. So and that's how I think about it.
If you study history and societies, the things that are happening in the United States are the things that happen right before that society falls.
Yep. I mean, why in the world, with anybody, and half the country believes that. And which proves to me that being intelligent is like being tall, because it doesn't mean a lot. You got an awful lot of intelligent people that are blind to what's going on and don't endorse
intelligence
it.
Is not tied to wisdom.
No, and they're just.
We need wise people.
I can't believe that. And what they did yesterday, I mean, this country our reputation will never recover from that. We can never talk about democracy and liberty and all that stuff to anybody. We're in no position to be lecturing anybody else or about graft or corruption. That's what gets me. You talk about corrupt. It's just pathetic. I think the Congress is archaic. When the Democrats get in power, they go in there like raccoons in a kitchen. They come in here and tear everything up, give it to their friends. And then when they're not in power, they just quit, go on strike. They won't even they don't believe in orderly government. They just believe in their way. And yeah, this country's in bad shape. And I'm sorry that, and I don't really care whether people agree with me or not. I'm entitled to my opinion. I have a right to be wrong. That's another thing I learned about old people. I learned that back picking juries. I was
Come on back in. Just
I was
remember that.
29 years old picking juries, and we get these old guys on these panels, and they were such assholes. They just get up and admit that the police did it, arrested them, they're guilty. A lot of them were racist, And then I realized, I had an epiphany, and it was because of the Beatles. I don't know how I made this connection, because I never liked the Beatles either. But there was an interview with the Beatles.
Hippies.
They were a
hippies.
bunch of goddamn hippies. That's what I thought, man.
My dad had the same opinion. He was a military guy.
And you look at their hair now; it's pretty short, But in those pictures, but yeah, I didn't like them that much at all. I like some of their songs, but not. That's about it. But they were being interviewed one time, and some reporter asked them some big old question, like they like to talk, and they, you started, with hard rock with, Buddy Holly was an influence, and you went to Germany and you learned how to do the original rock, and then you kind of, developed, grew up, and then you had the period when you became the Beatles in America, 64, 65, and then you put the White Album, and then you went to India, and you just seemed to continually grow. I mean, what was it that, how did you make this transition? One of them said, we got older. Son of a bitch. That's right. Just got older. And so I got to thinking that those old men and old women on those panels, they just got older. They got a right to be wrong. It's called the First Amendment. They got a right to have those crazy ideas that I don't agree with, and I sure don't want them on my jury, but they're entitled, So that was a real epiphany. So now I'm entitled. So that's, and the nice thing about being old is you don't care. And I probably would have said it anyway, because like I said, one of the reasons I did go into the service during the war was because if I hadn't done it, I just wouldn't have felt right criticizing the government later.
You still living over there across the way from SMU?
Yeah.
Same house?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the...
Have you been to his house?
Yeah, he used to let students come over there all the time.
See, I used to... I can't do that anymore, but I used to be able to do it. Yeah, that's the way we used to do it.
What did they
Why not?
chastise you
They
for?
won't
They
let
were
you do it?
afraid that I might, although I hadn't done it yet, that I might sexually harass or assault.
Did Mike ever sexually harass you?
He looked at me with some oogling.
Sure I did.
If he did me, I must have blocked it out. I don't remember it.
So they would rather, this is another example. Although, again, we got a new dean, so
Are we allowed to go over there now that we're 20 years out?
I don't know. It's better than it was a year ago, I'll tell you that for sure.
Mike, we really appreciate you coming over and getting to see you again
Okay,
and spend
good.
some time. And
I got my...
that I'm telling that
This,
is if I
this,
had
this.
so that this
God, I got goodies.
Yeah.
and I think that one's signed by Lanny.
This one.
That with winning mine.
Okay, well, did you sign this one?
I will sign. I will
Sign it
right now.
Sign it.
Here, you want a pen or a marker?
And I'll get General Kerry's book to you. Okay?
Awesome.
Yeah, he's a. I tell you what, he's an institution, and nobody lives forever. And
really, everything I've learned about practicing laws, or not law, but like managing a law firm from this guy right here.
Okay,
I mean, he really picked up a lot of that stuff.
well, I wish I'd have had
Just
20
school of hard
40
knocks,
years ago.
And then honestly, you were in the most practical class I ever had in law school.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really the only class I truly remember.
Yeah, it was fun. It's fun. See, that was the fun part of it. And, like I said, I just remembered Phil Burleson doing that for us youngsters.
Our law firm would not exist if it wasn't for you in that class and what we learned
Michelle.
and did in that
Yeah,
class. And Michelle
absolutely.
and Royce.
Yeah.
And in turn, I tell everyone my favorite thing to do is to train young lawyers that come
it's
work
fun.
for us.
And
Great job.
we never would have gotten together. I
Pass
mean,
it forward. That's what I
absolutely.
learned from Ferguson. Pass it forward. You know, it's
and
very
it's not just
satisfying.
us. It's so many others. You've really done a lot of great work, and I hope that we can have you back. If you ever just want to come out and say, "Hey, I feel like coming out," we
will
try
do
and do
that.
this. We try and do this Wednesdays and
I'll
Fridays.
get you guys in trouble with that last 20 minutes.
No, actually, believe it or not, if we cut that out and put that in a short, that'll be the highest viewed. Anything that's current or anything like that, it gets tremendous amounts of views and grows the channel.
So I'll tell you what, the one thing about General Kerry's book, he doesn't apologize for Vietnam. We were right. I don't apologize. I never have. I mean, we were right. We went over there to stop communism. That's why we went. And if we hadn't had Johnson micromanaging the war.
I wanted to
done
ask you about that. I want to have you back and talk about that
I
more.
tell you what, when we left, when the Marines left, we were winning. I mean, we were winning big time. They were so glad to see us go. And the poor South Vietnamese, they lasted 2 years, 2 whole years, without any support from us at all. They were down to 1 round for the rifles. They had no gas, no artillery, nothing. When the North Vietnamese finally took Saigon in April of '75, yeah. So, yeah, we were winning. We could have won. And you know what? If we hadn't done it, the Chinese would have been a lot further along than they are now, because they would have kept going.
That was a Nixon's call, wasn't it?
No, it started with Kennedy.
Well, but
The war
no,
started with
no. I
him.
mean to pull out.
Well, to pull out, yes, but we still gave them aid.
From what I've seen, we could have gone farther.
He was bombing them. If he'd have just kept bombing them the second time in '72, he had them another week of a linebacker two that they would have been done. We didn't know it at the time, but we cut them off because of Watergate. The Democrats controlled Congress, and their spear chunker, their spear carrier was Biden. You know, the dumb shit that he is. You know, they tell him what to do, and he goes and does it and says it. That's what he is now. He's just a cipher for them. He's not. See, I don't think he's getting senile. He's always been that dumb.
Did you see him on Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearing?
Yeah.
And see what Clarence Thomas said about it afterwards?
Yeah.
I've watched
I'm
that
gonna
excerpt.
go back and watch it.
Oh, it's idiotic.
Yeah, he's an idiot. He's always been an idiot. But he's their idiot, and they control him.
This is the Lawyer Dana Show.